Hello, everybody. Welcome to another NeoUnrealist. Had some time to get over the holiday blahs, the doldrums, and it looks like a lot happened over the last day or so. As you can see, we got the base Ted Cruz meme out, the famous Sabo poster, Photoshop, whatever you want to call it, and we had quite the last couple hours actually now of this news going back and forth. But in case you're not in the know, first of all, hello to you guys. It's been a while. I think it's been a little bit over a week since I've done one of these, and we have some things to talk about. So we're gonna start off today. First of all, I see a lot of you regulars in the chat there. We're gonna start off talking about Ted Cruz and his offer to that if the Supreme Court were to accept cert, as it's called in legal circles, of the Sean Parnell, Pennsylvania lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of Act 77, which is the Pennsylvania law that instituted the universal mail-in voting, I believe, where he offered to argue that case personally before the Supreme Court. Now, before this, I'm sure many of you, if you're on Twitter or if you're on social media at all, you saw that Ted Cruz was already trending when he posted this photo of himself killing this humongous deer wherever he was in Texas hunting, I guess. And here's his tweet here. Beautiful day in South Texas. That's where he was, and apparently he bagged this buck. This I'm not a hunter myself, so I couldn't tell you if this is it looks pretty big to me, but this apparently did not go down well with a certain segment of the Twitterverse, the blue check Twitterati. Let's see what we got here. There's this guy Thor Jensen, a blue check mark, basically calling him a murderer and dehumanizing him. Let's see. Your life is worth so much less than that beautiful animal that you murdered for fun. Well, I guess this guy just doesn't like to eat. Contrary to popular belief, most of the animals that are killed in these hunting things, they're actually eaten and consumed. Let's see. Here's another one. The buck's life is definitely worth more than you. Okay, that's an interesting opinion. Let's see, I will never understand human beings killing animals for sport and even food at this point. I guess this guy's never eaten a hamburger or a hot dog. I don't know. Not beautiful for that deer. Killing for sport is a sin. Though thou shalt not kill. I guess that's what he's trying to say. Thou shalt not kill. He's got thou shalt not kill. This woman, Cindy Takant, I guess she missed that part in the Bible where they kill the fatted calf when the prodigal son comes home. That parable. Let's see. That deer was more beneficial to this country than you'll ever be. And you could guess how this here's what murderer. Hashtag karma. So that was the roll call of responses to that. But we're not here to talk about Ted Cruz's hunting exploits. We had this post here from Ted Cruz where he indicated that if they granted cert in the Pennsylvania election case, I have told the petitioners that I will stand ready to present the oral argument. And here's how that sounded on Fox News. Their breaking news alert when they found out that Ted Cruz was asked to do this.
Got some breaking news now. Breaking news on a lawsuit seeking to throw out the election results in Pennsylvania. Mike Emanuel's got that story live in Washington. What are you picking up, Mike?
Bill, good afternoon. Fox News has learned that if the Supreme Court decides to take up the case, a high-profile U.S. senator will be arguing in front of the high court. Texas Senator Ted Cruz telling Fox News exclusively, quote, petitioner's legal team has asked me whether I would be willing to argue the case before the Supreme
When I see this picture, I can never stop thinking about that time when I realize he wasn't the first person to say this, but when Steven Crowder called him Cruzerine, he looks like Logan from the Wolverine movies. It's insane.
Supreme Court if the court grants certiorari. I have agreed and told them that if the court takes the appeal, I will stand ready to present the oral argument. The case being brought by Republican Congressman Mike Kelly and congressional candidate Sean Parnell. They argue no excuse mail-in voting is unconstitutional, so they're seeking to throw out those ballots in this presidential election. Cruz has publicly pushed for the high court to take up the case, and the senator tells Fox News, as I said last week, the bitter division and acrimony we see across the nation needs resolution. I believe the Supreme Court has a responsibility to the American people to ensure within its powers that we are following the law and following the Constitution. This would not be a new experience for Senator Cruz. He served as Solicitor General for the state of Texas from 2003 to 2008. He has made 9 appearances before the Supreme Court. This could be the 10th.
Could be interesting, too. Mike Emanuel, thanks. Breaking news on that from Washington.
All right, so that was the news alert over there on Fox News. Ted Cruz indicating that he was able and willing to do that. Here we have the obligatory. I guess we have the. Since I was looking at Ted Cruz bag of deer, there, the Daily Caller, I guess, thinks I need a Henry Long Ranger. Available at 223-556-243-308 and 6.5 Creedmoor. Get your bolt action performance, your lever action speed, your Henry rifle. Unbelievable. Ted Cruz will have Trump's back if election case goes to the Supreme Court. All right, so I mean that's the basic story being reported by what was it? The Daily Caller. Same thing. They linked to Ted Cruz's post here. And here's the story at Fox News where Ted Cruz himself explains why he agreed to argue this Pennsylvania election case.
We also have so much more coming up in the show today. But first, joining us now with more surrounding the legal battle out of Pennsylvania, Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, let me applaud you because you have offered to step up. I have said from the beginning, if you're looking at the constitutionality of what the state legislature in Pennsylvania did, it directly contradicts the language in Pennsylvania state constitution. Now, that
we got the Wolverine mutton chops going on over here.
To me is a slam dunk case the Supreme Court should take. You're now willing to argue that, which, by the way, let the record note, you have won cases in the Supreme Court.
Well, that's right, Sean, and it's good to be with you this evening. You know, we're seeing across the country lawsuits that are challenging voter fraud, that are challenging irregularities in the election. And in Pennsylvania, this appeal to the Supreme Court raises very serious issues. It raises pure issues of law. And I believe the Supreme Court should choose to take the case. I think they should hear the appeal. And as you noted, the legal team reached out and asked if I would be willing to present the oral argument if the court took the case, and I told them I'd be happy to, because particularly at a time when this country is so divided, when people are so angry, I think we need a sense of resolution, and we need the Supreme Court to step in and ensure that we're following the Constitution and following the law. Right now, it's not healthy for our democracy what we're seeing, and in Pennsylvania, the problem was made worse because the Pennsylvania Supreme Court is a partisan Democratic court that has issued multiple decisions that were just on their face contrary to law. And that's not how elections are supposed to work.
All right, let me go. So I look at that case as...
All right, so let me stop this right there. We have an incoming super chat from Brando Commando. Louisiana joined Texas in Texas's SCOTUS case. Yes, we're going to get to that in a minute. Because unfortunately, I have some bad news to relate as regards this news, but we'll continue on here with with this little tidbit here where Alan Dershowitz said that the Supreme Court may rule to let legislators pick alternate electors. I guess that was his opinion on what a potential remedy might be. In this case, this is the Sean Parnell case against the state of Pennsylvania. But it doesn't really, it's a moot point now what Alan Dershowitz or anybody thinks what may happen in this case, because it just came out about think less than an hour ago, 50 minutes. Just in, U.S. Supreme Court rejects bid to nullify Biden's election win in Pennsylvania without noted dissent. Here's the order. One line, basically. Order list 592 U.S. Tuesday, December 8th, 2020. Order in pending case. I guess this is the docket number. 20A98. Kelly Mike et al. Versus Pennsylvania et al. The application for injunctive relief presented to Justice Alito and by him referred to the court is denied. That's it. One line. No noted dissent. So it appears that we will not have base Ted Cruz arguing this case before the Supreme Court. The question is answered. The answer is no, because the court did not give it cert. Does that mean we won't see base Ted Cruz argue before the court in a particular case? Because despite the apparent rejection of this case, we have another case, as was mentioned by the super chat by Brando Commando. We have the Texas lawsuit that was filed directly to the Supreme Court, challenging the election results in 4 states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Now, this case, I believe, is headed by the Attorney General of Texas is the lead on this case. And it has since been joined by Louisiana in the last little bit here. Just came, let's see, at, is it 5:05 p.m.? It was announced that Louisiana just joined Texas. I imagine Louisiana may not be the last state to join. I'm sure there's probably a cluster of these states involved. And because this involves states suing each other, this is essentially an interstate conflict. I believe they are suing under the U.S. Constitution, so the jurisdiction of this originates with the Supreme Court. It's like if one state sues another, that's where the case gets argued out. You don't start out in the lower courts, you go straight to the Supreme Court. So there'll be no arguments or rejection of this case based on jurisdictional grounds and things like that. They're going to have to probably accept or reject this case on the merits. And that is the opinion of Robert Barnes. If the Supreme Court of the United States does not take the Texas case, then they won't be getting involved in the election, period. The Texas case is the cleanest case for them to get involved and order relief. And you're going to see why right away. This Texas case is one of the scariest legal cases I've ever had to think about, because essentially, in my opinion, you're at a point that I don't think has ever been reached since maybe the Civil War. We're talking the 19th century, where you would essentially have different groups of states in disagreement about who is the legitimate office holder of the executive branch of the United States. So let's see the details of this. I believe this is this will have an interview with the Attorney General of Texas himself explaining his own case. Let's see if I can find that part of this report.
And we'll battle with the Trump administration, or at this point the Trump campaign, and we're going to get to all of that, and also the firing of the Defense Secretary, Mark Esper. So we'll get to that in a moment. But first, I want to bring in the Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, who has been leading the fight as it relates to the ACA, Obamacare, and there's been a big Supreme Court case, obviously, there this week. And Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Good morning.
Well, where do we begin? Why don't we get your take on what we heard this week regarding the ACA? I know you were leading the charge, obviously. There are at least media reports, the way they're spinning it at least, that John Roberts and Brett Kavanaugh have a few issues with whether or not they're going to just nix the whole law. What is your sense of what's been happening?
It's difficult to tell. There were several issues. There were standing issues. There were issues related to whether the individual mandate was unconstitutional. And then there are issues related to whether the whole thing has to fall. And so you have 9 justices. They all have different opinions on each of those different issues. it's really hard to read the court without seeing ultimately their opinion as to how they're going to come out.
Well, let's play a little bit of what we heard this past week at the Supreme Court from Brett Kavanaugh. I want to play a little bit of this and just get your reaction. Do we have it? We'll see if we have it, and if we do, we'll get your reaction.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Verrilli, but let's assume, just for the sake of argument, assume I don't agree with that, and then we get to severability. I tend to agree with you. This is a very straightforward case for severability under our precedents, meaning that we would excise the mandate and leave the rest of the act in place, reading our severability precedents. One of my questions is, do you think that's would have been the right result under the 2010 Act, or did that change in 2017, or how would you assess that?
What is your sense about what Brett Kavanaugh is saying there, Attorney General?
Well, obviously, he's got some concerns about severability. We believe that the statute with the legislative history was very clear, and that it would not be hard at all to say that the individual mandate, if it is struck down, it's essential. Congress said it in the legislative history that it was essential to the entire.
So they're going into issues of severability there with the Obamacare law. How that relates to this, I don't know. But essentially, as I understand it, what Texas is arguing in this case is that Pennsylvania and these other states, by changing the rules of their elections improperly, basically the United States Constitution sets out that the legislature has the power and is the only entity that has the power to say how their electors shall be chosen. So in Pennsylvania, we had this case with the Act 77 law, where essentially the Pennsylvania legislature, they didn't change their constitution. It's in the Pennsylvania Constitution what an absentee ballot is, for example. So under the Pennsylvania Constitution, they lay out the conditions under which a voter may request to vote absentee, and under which conditions that will be granted. Then, because it's a Pennsylvania constitutional part of the Pennsylvania Constitution, the legislature cannot then pass a law, a statute, that overrides that and just create this new class of voting called, general mail-in ballots, because in order to do that, they would have to pass a constitutional amendment, which they originally did in 2019. When it started out, they did start out as an amendment to the Pennsylvania Constitution. Somewhere along the way, it seems like they got the idea that they would not be able to pull that off, and they switched gears and turned it into a statute, and it turned into Act 77. And by statute, they created this new class of voting. And I don't think even at the time, because remember, I think the Pennsylvania legislature was Republican at the time. It still is. I don't think they realized that the Democrats who run the state, the governor and his the officials under him, the Secretary of State, people like that, would then go crazy, just issuing all these edicts and rule changes, in the year running up to the election, which again they're not allowed to do under the Pennsylvania Constitution, which is the only authority, which I shouldn't say only authority, which is the authority that would have had to have been overridden in order to do that. So they actually have a very good case in this regard, in terms of the merits of it. Now, the remedy, between you, me, and a hole in the wall, who knows what the remedy would be for this case. But just in terms of the merits itself, Texas is arguing that by breaking those rules, Pennsylvania and the three other states mentioned are basically diluting, or in many cases, or you could argue invalidating, the votes of the other 46 states who didn't break the rules, like Texas, and who followed the Constitution, in determining who would, the electors that would represent their state in the Electoral College. So that's the basis. So this case, as Robert Bart said, it's the cleanest case because it doesn't involve proving fraud. They don't have to present evidence of fraud, widespread election fraud, conspiracies. Show remember the famous purple shirted video that I'm sure you've all seen of the election workers in Georgia, pulling out the ballots from those containers from under the table, counting them in the dead of night with no one around. So we have Texas and Louisiana joining in this lawsuit to say, forget all the stuff about the cheating and all that. The ballots themselves, the changing of the rules itself, made the results null and void. So to me, in reading it, I'm like, the only real remedy I could see here, if the court does determine that Texas is correct in the terms of the changing of those rules being unconstitutional, the only remedy that I see that it would even be possible would be to invalidate all of those mailed-in ballots, regardless of who voted. I don't see any other outcome as that could be regarded as fair, or even legal or constitutional. But maybe that's just my view. And the thing of it is, I still see this lawsuit as a long shot. Don't get me wrong. Gun to the head. I mean, I would say the odds are against it. But for argument's sake, let's say they take the case, which they very well may have to, given the fact that this is an interstate conflict, and that they are bringing it up on legitimate grounds in terms of the constitutionality. Now, Pennsylvania has responded. And their response is almost silly, if you ask me. And they're arguing that because the case was, the lawsuit was not filed before the election, somehow that they couldn't file before, but they also couldn't file afterward. So there's this magical perfect crime that you could violate the Constitution, but you can't file a challenge to it either before or after the fact. This is nuts. So they're saying that they can violate the Constitution, but you can't challenge it. It would be difficult for me to explain it. But let's see the latest update with Louisiana joining Texas on this lawsuit. Louisiana just joined Texas in the Supreme Court of the United States motion against Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin on the grounds that various changes to their voting rules or procedures, either through the courts or via executive actions, violated the Electors Clause of the Constitution because they did not go through the legislatures. Attorney General Jeff Landry issued the following statement regarding the ongoing controversies over the 2020 federal election and the new motion put forward by the state of Texas before the United States Supreme Court. Millions of Louisiana citizens and tens of millions of our fellow citizens in the country have deep concerns regarding the conduct of the 2020 federal elections. Deeply rooted in these concerns is the fact that some states appear to have conducted their elections with a disregard to the U.S. Constitution. Furthermore, many Louisianans have become more frustrated as some in media and the political class try to sidestep legitimate issues for the sake of expediency. Weeks ago, on behalf of the citizens of Louisiana, my office joined many other states in filing a legal brief with the United States Supreme Court, urging the justices to look into the conduct of the election in Pennsylvania, where their state court ignored the U.S. Constitution in regard to the conduct of the election. The U.S. Constitution in Article 1, Section 4, states plainly, the time, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature. The power for the conduct of federal elections is held by the state legislatures in each state. In states like Pennsylvania, the judicial branch attempted to seize control of these duties and obligations and to set their own rules. These actions appear to be unconstitutional. If it is unconstitutional for Pennsylvania to take this action, it is similarly unconstitutional for other states to have done the same. Only the United States Supreme Court can ultimately decide cases of real controversy among the states under our Constitution, and that's why the justices should hear and decide the case which we've joined, representing the citizens of Louisiana. Furthermore, the U.S. Supreme Court should consider the most recent Texas motion, which contains some of the same arguments. Louisiana citizens are damaged if elections in other states were conducted outside the confines of the Constitution while we obeyed the rules. And okay, we have the update. Hours after the deadline for the petitioner's deadline, the U.S. Supreme Court rejected a request by Trump ally Mike Kelly, a Pennsylvania Republican. That's the case that was ultimately just rejected, the Pennsylvania case. And then they updated again. Just 12 hours after it was filed, the U.S. Supreme Court officially put Texas's lawsuit against Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin on the docket, meaning the case will be heard. That's, from what I understand, that's not necessarily true. The Supreme Court has placed the case on the docket. I'm not 100% sure that means it's a guarantee that the case will be heard. So Zero Hedge might be incorrect on that. Not a lawyer, so certainly never argued a case before the Supreme Court. So if any of you in the chat know, feel free to share that with the rest of the chat. But they did place the Texas case on the docket, and if you check the Supreme Court case, it's there as number 220155, Texas v. Pennsylvania, docketed December 8th, 2020, and that's how it appears on the record. Let's see. So I think I've hit the major things. If you go to this article at Zero Hedge, Louisiana joins Texas in motion against Georgia, Michigan. They'll have at the bottom. You could scroll down. You could read the lawsuit. The lawsuit itself. Let's see which one this is. This is the state of Texas suit. It's 92 pages. I read through. Well, I skimmed through it, I should say. I didn't deep read it. So if you want to see it for yourself, it is there. Feel free to knock yourself out with it. So let me repeat what Robert Barnes said again. If Supreme Court of the United States does not take the Texas case, then they won't be getting involved in the election period. In his opinion, this is the cleanest case, the one with the least clutter and the least ability for them to reject. If basically saying if they don't take this one, they're not taking any case. And sometimes, a lot of people asking, why is this important? Even some Republicans are asking, well, if Trump's not going to reverse the election, why would we go forward with these challenges, these court cases, investigations, hearings in these state legislatures? And my simple answer to anyone who would ask that is, seeing all the stuff that we've been seeing, and I'm going to present several examples of it, of stuff that we've seen that's incontrovertible that it happened. I'm not going to present these as things that would have changed the result of an election, individually. I'm just going to present them as things that we've seen that are clearly wrong and in most cases illegal. That we've seen that they just seem to go on in plain sight, and no one seems interested in investigating or punishing or remedying these things that are clearly wrong. Here's one that I saw that proof. Native Americans in Arizona given TVs, tablets, and resort stays for votes and registering to vote. I mean, that headline, when you read it sounds crazy, right? But then you go into it, it's pretty clear that's what happened here. Native Americans in Arizona, this is from the Gateway Pundit. Native Americans in Arizona were provided with electronics, resort stays, and monetary gifts in exchange for registering to vote or actually voting at events that were also promoting Joe Biden. Any monetary exchange for votes, whether partisan or not, is illegal. Okay? It says it right there that any monetary exchange for votes, whether you're telling them to vote for someone or not, is illegal. As the Gateway Pundit previously reported, that the Nevada Native Vote Project used gift cards, which is basically currency. If I hand you a $50 Best Buy card, you can then go to Best Buy and purchase $50 worth of merchandise. You could also take that card and sell it. You can go online and get cash for it. electronics and other gifts to bribe Native Americans to register to vote. In Arizona, Biden and Mark Kelly signs were prominently displayed during events offering giveaways. The Pascua Yaqui tribe of Arizona were treated to giveaways of resort stays, golf outings, Fitbits, tablets, televisions, soundbars, and more on September 22nd. I mean, if you doubt it, here's a poster from the Pascua Yaqui tribe of Arizona from their Twitter. Let me see if I can enlarge this a little. Pascua Yaqui tribe of Arizona happening now. Do you part, I guess they meant your, do you part to represent the Pascua Yaqui tribe, register to vote and be counted. Yaqui, hashtag Yaqui Vote 2020, hashtag Native Vote, hashtag Census 2020. Here's the poster. Join us for National Voter Registration Day at the Sunset Room Casino of the Sun, September 22nd, 2020, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Assisting tribal members to register to vote and become eligible to win some great prizes. So you just show up, you register, and see, they're not directly handing you the thing. If you show up to register to vote, you register to win a prize. It's I guess they're holding a sort of a raffle here. And look at the multiple prizes: tablets, TVs, Fitbit, soundbars, and many more prizes. You could also complete your census questionnaire at this event. For more information, contact Community Development at, here they give a phone number, mask required. You can also go to, they give you a website, Native Voter, bit.ly/Native Voter to register. So, you show up at the casino to register to vote, or to do your little absentee vote. You get tablets, TVs, Fitbits, sound bars. You get the gift cards. This is blatantly illegal. Am I the only one saying, maybe somebody ought to look into that? I don't know. Here we have a Biden appointee. This one made me laugh when I saw that they wanted to appoint Neera Tanden. This is we're told everyone is spreading conspiracy theories. I'm sure by now YouTube has already placed a warning on this video saying that it's on the stream saying, this is disputed, or whatever the messages that they keep putting on their so-called fact check messages. Biden appointee Neera Tanden spread the conspiracy that Russian hackers changed Hillary's 2016 votes to Trump. So I guess when the Democrats complained that votes were changed, that's not a conspiracy theory. You get appointed to a cabinet position. But if Republicans say that the votes were changed, that's conspiracy theorists and their threats to the Republic. That's just an interesting one. This is written by Glenn Greenwald. He's been pretty good on a lot of this stuff, and it's ironic because he's basically a left-wing journalist. But I guess when he sees hypocrisy, he's got to write about it. Incoming super chat from Shecky Shebang. My man streaming without me knowing. Here's some money and love for Kentucky. Well, thank you very much, Shecky. We have a lot of hypocrisy to go through right now. And really, it doesn't seem like enough time to do it. Usually, I'll prepare like 3 browsers full of tabs of stuff to talk to you guys about. And normally, about 2 tabs in, I look up at the time and I've been talking for 3 hours, and I'm like, gotta let the guys go at this point. I'm sure you don't want to hear me blab for 5 hours on all these things. So here's the latest one. Here's another one I'm talking about. New 9 a.m. call. Here's CNN's president, Jeff Zucker, getting caught on audio tape, basically saying and admitting that he's going to refuse to pursue the story against Hunter Biden. Remember the laptop where basically they find evidence that he was being accused of doing stuff, with, I'll use the term that Susan WikiWiki won't whack me for cheese pizza, that he was going to refuse to pursue these allegations against Hunter Biden. I mean, basically, refusing to report the news. And again, I had to click through one of these sensitivity warnings that Twitter puts on basically anything that James O'Keefe and Project Veritas puts out. So here, let's listen to this quick teaser of Jeff Zucker of CNN just saying, hey, we're not going to cover that story.
Like other media enterprises, CNN doesn't think pedophilia allegations against the powerful elite are worth covering, and they explain this on their 9 a.m. Jeff Zucker call. Check this out.
The President of the United States has just retweeted a post accusing Joe Biden of being a pedophile to his 86 million followers, which is just beyond. It also is just unacceptable that the President of the United States is trafficking in this and doing it.
The President of the United States is doing this. We talked about it yesterday with the pedophile thing. When the President puts this out on his Twitter feed to 70 million plus people, it's viewed by millions of people, many of whom believe that it's real. It's insane that the President of the United States is doing this. And 2 days in a row now, one, Joe Biden's a pedophile, and two, Joe Biden is dancing and laughing to, F the police. And it's just, I mean, again, we have an issue because the more we show it or talk about it, we're actually giving it some air.
I want to stop that right there. That, in essence, the more we talk about it, we're actually giving it some air. That's the point. Their job is to report the news, not to judge it. Well, I guess they can judge it if they want, but they have to show. I mean, the President of the United States made an accusation. Now you could go on the air and say he's full of crap and try to point out why. But this nonsense that we're not going to report that the President of the United States is pointing out that his opponent, is in the middle of covering up, something which they seem to have evidentiary backup for in the form of the material on the laptop. Oh, we're just not going to cover it. It's unacceptable.
Air.
Each of these so-called scandals for Trump.
Here, this is going to be even better. You're going to have Zucker complaining that Trump isn't destroyed by any of the scandals. See, those they'll report. These scandals that had, all of them had less evidence. I shouldn't say all. Most of them had less evidence than the Hunter Biden stuff that was being reported on, and he's lamenting that none of the scandals took down Trump.
Each of these things, we should just once again be careful to say that this is the one that is going to undo him with his voters. We always think that, but we need to make sure we have a sense of what's going on out in the country and not just listen to Twitter.
Well, at least Jeff Zucker knows that the Twitter isn't the real world. I mean, seems he hasn't completely lost his grasp on reality.
With regard to the filth that
notice he calls it the filth. The filth. They have done no investigative reporting on this. They didn't report the story in terms of the merits of the story. He just calls it the filth. Yeah, okay, so it is filth, but not. I don't think in the way I think it's filth is not the way I think he's describing it as filth here.
They're spreading with regard to child pornography and all of that. I do not believe that we should be covering those allegations. Even
I do not believe that we should be covering those allegations. Wow. So basically, what the guy's saying is that Joe Biden, he could do whatever he wants. President Trump could accuse him of whatever he wants. He decided he's just not going to report anything. If it hurts Biden and helps Trump, he shouldn't be covering it.
Even if they're out there on Newsmax.
It's unbelievable. Right there in the open on a call with his own CNN employees. Here's another one. I mean, right out in the open, and a lot of the media, I shouldn't say not all of them, because there was Wolf Blitzer at CNN, ironically. When he had Nancy Pelosi on, he did hold her feet to the fire on this. I should have got the video on that. But most of the media just seems to have cut her a pass. Here's Pelosi just basically, at this point now, just admitting that she held up the COVID-19 relief deal just because Trump was in office, and now that she believes he's lost the election, hey, I'm happy to cut a COVID-19 relief deal now. This is the what we've reached now. You have the head of the Democrat Party, essentially. She's the the person with the most power that on the Democrat Party, in terms of she's the Speaker of the House, admitting that she held up the COVID-19 relief deal for political considerations. So if you're someone out there and you're disadvantaged by the government essentially forcing you to close your business, or they forcibly close the business that you work for, she basically held up any relief for you because Trump, because the bad orange man. But now that the bad orange man is gone, it's, you know what, I'm happy to cut a deal now. Unbelievable. Obviously, here's where, she obviously got her hair done there. Now, if you'd done that, you'd have a problem. But they could open a hair salon for her. There's other stories that just they go in one ear and out the other. Report. This is from Hot Air. Reporting on they're reporting on a story put out by the Times. Nike, Coke, and other companies lobbying against bill that would ban goods made with slave labor of Uyghurs in Xinjiang. Is it just me, or we have the major corporations, the ones that are basically? Is there a woker corporation? I can't believe I just used the word woker. That is there a company that you could associate more with leaning into the woke paradigm than Nike? So we have Nike, Coke, actually lobbying essentially on behalf of China, where they're lobbying against bills that would ban goods that are made with slave labor in China. This seems to go unreported, and we're going to talk a lot more about China. I saw some of you in chat asking those questions. We're going to talk about this stuff with China and the Chinese spy and Eric Swalwell in a minute. Incoming super chat from Shecky Shabang. Grab ammo of your choice, or your choice of alcohol. Godspeed. The Times opted for the term forced labor. We're not gonna call it slave labor. We're gonna call it forced labor. In this story, for reasons I don't understand, the oppression of Uyghurs by China isn't limited to telling them which jobs they need to work. The infringement on their liberties is total. Their existence is at the sufferance of Beijing. It's a full spectrum slave regime, replete with concentration camps, and it's getting worse, not better, as time goes on. One might think corporate America, normally so quick to flash its woke consciousness during cultural disputes in the United States, would draw the line at honest-to-goodness slavery being practiced by the government of its manufacturing base. After all, some of these companies have devised whole advertising campaigns around the idea that sometimes you need to do what's right, even if it hurts your bottom line. Remember this ad from Colin Kaepernick, the poster boy of Nike? Believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything? Unbelievable. So let's get into the details of this bill. Why are they on the wrong side of a federal bill that would ban imported goods made by American companies using Uyghur slave labor? The legislation, called the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, has become the target of multinational companies, including Apple. Again, noticing the trend here of far left darling woke companies basically lobbying stop a bill that would make illegal bringing in products made by Chinese slave labor? Incoming super chat from Tomokun777. After what the Chinese Communist Party did in 2020, Trump needs to crush them, and the Dems playing a part too. Amazing work and Godspeed. Well, thank you very much, Tomokun. I mean, here we go with lobbying. Essentially, they're lobbying. Now, when they do this, they're not just lobbying on their behalf. They're essentially taking China's part. They're standing for China. Lobbyists have fought to water down some of the provisions, arguing that while they strongly condemn forced labor and current atrocities in Xinjiang, the act's ambitious requirements could wreak havoc on supply chains that are deeply embedded in China. Oh, the poor babies. Xinjiang produces vast amounts of raw materials like cotton, coal, sugar, tomatoes, and polysilicon. You know, those all sound like the products we used to produce. I'm pretty sure that it wasn't so long ago America produced its own cotton, its own coal, its own sugar, its own tomatoes. And I'm sure we could produce plenty of polysilicon if we want. And supplies workers for China's apparel and footwear factories. Pretty sure we used to make our own clothes too. Human rights groups and news reports have linked many multinational companies to suppliers there, including tying Coca-Cola to sugar sourced from Xinjiang and documenting Uyghur workers in a factory in Qingdao that makes Nike shoes. For many companies, fully investigating and eliminating any potential ties to forced labor there has been difficult, given the opacity of Chinese supply chains and the limited access of auditors to a region where the Chinese government tightly restricts people's movements. This is crazy. These guys, they're like, oh, we know there's slave labor there, but hey, man, actually, not accepting the products of the slave labor, that would be complicated. That would be inconvenient. Some companies like Nike have already issued statements insisting that they don't source products from Xinjiang. Okay, that's stupid right there. Before I even go on, I can tell you the problem with that. Do you think China's stupid? Do you think they keep the slave labor just in Xinjiang? They got hip to that game a long time ago. All they do is take the slave labor and ship it out of the province, you know, as needed. You know, a lot of the work is seasonal, so what they'll do is, okay, so this company, they need to fulfill some order, and they'll give them some supply. They'll bus a train. They'll send trainloads of Uyghurs to work in a factory for like 2 or 3 months to fulfill some order, and it'll be outside of Xinjiang. Xinjiang's where they keep the camps. You know, so you can't just say just Xinjiang, because that's, you know, they're not dumb. They ship this labor wherever they need it. Let me read further. They don't source products from Xinjiang and have found no use of slave labor in their supply chains after conducting audits. The problem is that so many Uyghurs are enslaved with so much obfuscation of their enslavement by Beijing that they simply can't be sure if it's true or not. Reportedly, China has moved some Uyghurs around the country to work in factories outside Xinjiang, that's what I was saying, in order to solve the problem of a corporate boycott of that particular region. The issue, in other words, isn't so much that American companies are knowingly using slave labor, it's that there's so much slave labor in China that they can't be sure that there isn't any somewhere in the supply chain. Unbelievable. So, I mean, I'm not going to go too far into this. I mean, this would take another video on it in itself to go into the issue of the Uyghur slave camps and what's going on with the labor there, and the American corporations basically, you know, profiting off of it. Well, let's move on. Here's where I was going to tell you, if I told you that somehow Eric Swalwell was going to be remembered for something other in 2020 than this unfortunate incident, I would have said you were wrong. I thought this was going to be the worst, the low point of 2020 for Eric Swalwell. See if you remember this incident, the famous sharding incident. This was before Chris Matthews got canned by MSNBC.
Chris, so far, the evidence is uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election.
Oh!
And the
Did
complaint
you
that
hear
I've
that?
heard from
Did you hear that? Let's play it back again.
Chris, so far, the evidence is uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election.
Oh!
And the complaint that
Yeah, somebody moved a coffee mug. I'm sure a Swalwell. Well, it came out today. That you can't make this up. I mean, these people are so enmeshed with the Chinese Communist Party. It's not even funny. Alleged Chinese spy got so close to Democrat Eric Swalwell that alarmed FBI had to intervene. A suspected Chinese spy operating in the Bay Area during the Obama administration reportedly got so close to Representative Eric Swalwell, Democrat California, that the FBI had to intervene and provide him with a defensive briefing. The alleged spy, Chinese national Christine Fang, we're gonna read about her modus operandi, how she operated here in the United States. The alleged spy, Chinese national Christine Fang, targeted up-and-coming local politicians in the Bay Area and across the country who had the potential to make it big on the national stage through campaign fundraising, extensive networking, personal charisma, and romantic or sexual relationships. Axios reported, even though U.S. officials do not believe Fang received or passed on classified information, the case was a big deal because there were some really, really sensitive people that were caught up in the intelligence network, a current senior U.S. intel official said. The report said that the type of information that officials believed that Fang was collecting, while not necessarily classified, constituted valuable political intelligence that foreign intelligence agencies seek on U.S. officials. Fang's ties to Swalwell began when he was a council member for Dublin City, California, which is a part of China's long-term strategy of getting in with people before they make it big on the national stage. Guys, this is going to be a big part of the stream tonight. We're going to read just how far China has infiltrated, especially with the Democrat Party. And you're going to see, the thread that's going to tie all these stories together. Fang met Swalwell through a Chinese student organization, and by 2014 had quickly developed close ties to Swalwell's office and was a bundler for him. She was basically giving him money, meaning that she helped him bring in big donors. Amid a widening counterintelligence probe, federal investigators became so alarmed by Fang's behavior and activities that around 2015 they alerted Swalwell to their concerns, giving him what is known as a defensive briefing. Axios reported Swalwell immediately cut off all ties to Fang, according to a current U.S. intelligence official, and he's not been accused of any wrongdoing. Fang, who was put under FBI surveillance, appears to have only targeted Democrat politicians, as no Republicans were identified in Axios' report as the FBI's probe continued. I wonder why. Fang unexpectedly packed up and left the country, returning to China. Officials say that her Chinese handlers called off her spying and brought her back to China. The report said that Fang had at least 2 sexual interactions with elected officials that were recorded by FBI electronic surveillance. Really, she slept with two elected officials. And remember, the FBI says she only targeted Democrats. Swalwell's office said in a statement to Axios, Representative Swalwell long ago provided information about this person. Very Clinton-esque there. Remember Clinton, I did not have sex with that woman? Whom he met more than 8 years ago and whom he hasn't seen in nearly 6 years, to the FBI, to protect information that might be classified. You're starting to get the idea that maybe Swalwell was one of those quote-unquote 2 politicians or 2 officials that she did the horizontal bop with. Top political players weighed in on Axios' report on Monday night, including former acting director of national intelligence Richard Grenell, who wrote on Twitter, Eric Swalwell is a total hypocrite and should resign in disgrace. Now, I don't know if Matt Christensen of the Beauty and the Beta podcast has gotten hold of this stuff yet, but if he does, I'm sure he's going to have a really good time. He's going to have a really good time. Eric Swalwell being one of his favorite personalities to talk about. Oh, Swalwell. This is not just here. This got caught up in the British press. How Fang Fang, the Chinese spy, slept with 2 U.S. mayors. Well, I guess it wasn't Swalwell. They named 2 U.S. mayors. Swalwell was never a mayor. And targeted politicians, including one of the youngest members of the House, before slipping out of the U.S. when the FBI came knocking. Fang Fang, or Christine Fang, was reportedly a Chinese intelligence operative with China's Ministry of State Security. She remained in California's Bay Area from 2011 to 2015. Fang reportedly used campaign fundraising, networking, her charm, and romantic relationships to get close with politicians. Do you think Fang Fang is the only Chinese spy or intelligence operative that China has over here raising money for Democrats and trying to sleep their way to the top with them? She helped Representative Eric Swalwell fundraise for his re-election campaign and had interacted with him at several events. Fang also helped Tulsi Gabbard fundraise and became well known by California's political scene. She even got to Tulsi Gabbard. Look at this. She reportedly had a romantic or sexual relationship with 2 Midwestern elected officials. A suspected Chinese intelligence operative developed substantial ties with California lawmakers as part of a political operation at the direction of China's Ministry of State Security, it's been revealed. Let's see. I don't want to read to you redundant information. Here she is with Swalwell. There's Fang Fang. Let me blow that image up for you. There she is with Swalwell. What are they holding on to there? Some kind of certificate. There's Swalwell and Fang Fang. You can't make this up. Oh, okay. Fang, she reportedly interacted with Swalwell at several events, helped fundraise. Okay, they said that. Fang's suspected operations ended during the Obama administration when she fled the U.S. amid an FBI counter-intel. I wonder who tipped her off. I wonder who tipped her off that the FBI was onto her. They first discovered Fang while reportedly surveilling a different person. Now notice the difference here. When they believed that the Trump campaign was being targeted by Russian intelligence people, notice they didn't give the Trump campaign any defensive briefings. Notice in this case, the same year, 2015, when this supposedly started. Remember the whole Russia nonsense? They gave Swalwell a defensive briefing. Notice the different behavior by the same FBI there. Defensive briefings for thee, but not for me. Now, in this case, there was an actual spy. Here she is, Fang Fang. Now, notice in the case of the Trump administration, they could never really tie an actual a Russian operative to Trump. Here's Swalwell in direct contact with the Chinese spy. The Chinese spy who actually raised money for him. The Chinese spy who essentially was working for Democrats and was literally in bed with Democrats. Pictured Fang Fang with then Representative Mike Honda and then San Jose City Council member Ash Kalra in March of 2014. So Fang Fang got around. She really did her job well. And again, she used the guise of these supposed Chinese student groups. That's how they get them here. As a young members of the APAPA, our association helped to set up the Congresswoman Judy Chu's meeting in Cupertino Community Hall. This is a posting by Christine Fang. Fang reportedly used her positions in the Chinese Student Association and the Asian Pacific Islander American Public Affairs to network with Bay Area politicians. And here's Fang Fang posing with Representative Judy Chu. before she fled the U.S. amid an FBI probe in 2015. And a scroll through Fang's Facebook page reportedly showed she was friends with Swalwell's father and brother. Oh, Fang. Going for the trifecta, the father and the brother too. So their earliest known interaction was facilitated through the Chinese Student Association. So all these million, I don't know if what is the number of all these Chinese students here in the United States? Using the Chinese Student Association that, again, a lot of these institutions over here, like the Confucius Institute? And they're just like fronts for Chinese foreign intelligence. Fang portrayed herself to be the connector between the Asian American community and members of Congress. Let's see. It's an ideal position. They're talking about her being a bundler for Swalwell in his 2014 congressional campaign. It's an ideal position for an intelligence operative to hold, considering it would strengthen their ties to the campaign official. Yeah, giving them money. During this time, Fang reportedly facilitated potential intern assignments for Swalwell's offices, including one placed in Washington, D.C. So here's Fang basically putting people, quote-unquote interns, in Swalwell's office. Around 2015, a counterintelligence probe became so unnerved by Fang's behavior they alerted Swalwell of the defensive briefing. All right, so here's Fang with supporting Raj Salwan, whoever that is, a Fremont City Council member. There's Ro Khanna and Fang at a September 2013 fundraiser. Yeah, Fang. We're gonna get to this video, guys. I'm sure you've seen the viral Di Dongsheng video. We're gonna deep dive into that one because that really ties into what we're talking about here. So this was the original report by Axios that broke the story. Exclusive. Suspected Chinese spy targeted California politicians. So if you want to get the original story, go to put Axios in your search when you search for Axios Chinese spy and Eric Swalwell, and you can get the full original report here about Fang and how she was basically operating as a Chinese spy in the Democrat Party. So this is the video of actually, let's use this one. This is a much better translation of this video by this is Di Dongsheng. He's I'll get fully into what his position is. This translation I trust it more because it was done by Jennifer Zhang. I'm sure you remember she's the Chinese person that's located here in the United States who opposes the Chinese Communist Party. I used a lot of her posts on Twitter during the whole the original coronavirus hoopla. So I trust her translations more than I trust some other translations I've seen. They're just more natural. She's more fluent with English, so they're easier to read. So let's do this video. She's got the whole full 18-minute video. I don't think we'll do the whole 18 minutes, but we're gonna deep dive into what this guy was saying and why this is a video that everybody should watch. This is a Chinese national in Shanghai, basically openly bragging about how China essentially owns the the Washington Beltway insiders and the Democrat Party especially. But before we start that, let me take this incoming super chat from Shecky Shabang. Once again, I'll listen for more than 3 hours. Everyone else who does say hey. Well, I appreciate the thought, but I don't know if I want to test that. I don't know if I want to test your guys' endurance on that. But let's get back into what this Dong character is it Dong Dishang, who he is, and what he had to say, and why this is probably the most important part of the stream. Why you guys should watch and listen to this.
Now that we've helped people customize and save with
as we
Liberty
sit
Mutual,
through the ad,
we can finally do some beach reading.
La-di-da-di-da.
关键在什么啊？
So this is Didong Sheng, that's his name. He is the Vice Dean of the School of International Relations at Renmin University of China, the Vice Director and Secretary of the Center for Foreign Strategic Studies of China. Okay, this is the speech he gave on November 28th in Shanghai in China. So here's the speech. Now notice, I want you to notice here, this is the YouTube site of Jennifer Zhang. So, you know, if you want to check out the video for yourself, the full video without me yammering every few so often, you can check it out there. So that's who he is. This is Didong Sheng. He gave this speech. The long and short of it, before we get into it, is that he's basically bragging about how China owns, you know, basically Washington. So here he's talking about the trade war between the United States and China, essentially, that Trump was involved with during his first term here. So that's the context of why he's talking about this. Let's see if we can jump in at this point.
那样一种方式，刚才讲过了，那样一种方式挂钩啊。但是呢，现在人家想象跟我们脱钩。
He's talking about people in the U.S. saying that they should decouple from China. He's talking about China, basically the prospect of them opening up their financial system or their economic system wider to more foreign participation. So that's the context of the this part of the speech that he's giving.
啊，所以呢，我的理解啊，当然是我个人的解读。为什么在现在这个时候开始加速？首先是20年前我们承诺过的，第二个，当前中国政府力推金融市场开放，在实际上可能啊，这儿再强调一下，这是我个人揣测，可能跟这个政治和战术考量有关系。为什么？因为我们知道前边特朗普政府跟我们打贸易战，那么我们为什么搞不定特朗普政府？啊？
Why can't we fix the Trump administration? So here's a Chinese national essentially saying, you know, admitting that they don't have basically the ability to influence the Trump administration in the ways that they like. And as you're going to see he goes forward to say, as they're accustomed to doing before Trump assumed office.
为什么以前1992年到
Note that key. Why between 1992 and 2016
2016年之间，中美之间
did China and the U.S. used to be able to settle all kinds of issues? Let's listen to this part.
各种问题都能搞得定，是不是？大家发现没有？所有的危机，不管是银河号事件，还是炸大使馆，还是撞了飞机，所有事情全部是床头吵架床尾和，2个月之内搞定。什么原因？啊，这儿我抛出一个可能又要是暴论了，就是因为咱们上边有人。
It's just because we have people at the top. I'm just gonna throw that out there. It might be a little explosive, but you know we have people at the top.
啊，就是我们在美国的权。
At the top of America's core inner circle of power and influence. I wonder who these people could be. Oh, he's gonna tell us. Don't worry.
是核心圈啊。 我们有我们的老朋友。
We have our old friends.
时间关系，我这都不多展开，给大家讲个小故事啊。张市长，我看这个讲得非常好啊，都是讲故事是吧？所以我也讲个故事。那么，哎呀，可惜这故事今天全网直播是吧？据说100万人在看啊，所以我得掌握一下这个度啊，这不能把人给卖了。这么讲吧，2015年啊，这个上次习总书记访问美国之前呢。 我们知道各个系统都要在美国帮他暖场，是不是？那么，咱们的党的某个系统。
Okay, this is I found this fascinating. Here he's just describing because apparently this used to be his job, describing the mechanisms and the way that his people would basically grease the skids for top Chinese officials like President Xi to make a visit to the United States and get them a good reception. And here he's just basically, oh my God, you guys got to see this.
他在美国帮他暖场的方式呢，就是舆论。
So it was arranged that the first edition of the English version of Xi Jinping's new book. So here he's telling you this is they want to influence public opinion right before his trip.
舆论的话呢，就是这个习近平谈治国理政那本书的新书英文版第一版新书发布会放在美国，在他去之前先。
Okay, so he's talking about how they would hold a book release party. Hold an event, and they'd get their people over here in the United States to publish the book in English to help them build up the momentum.
搞一个新书发布会，帮他造势。那么由谁来做呢？就跟今天一样他们发现说，哎，狄东升，你这家伙比较。
Di Dongsheng, you have a way with foreigners and are better at fooling them, right? I like that. You're better at fooling them.
擅长于忽悠老外，是不是？这个，因为他们看过我怎么忽悠老外的，是吧？他们觉得现场效果非常不错你来主持兼嘉宾所以那次跟咱们今天这个活动很相似。我既是
I gotta go back to that. It's just what he said there is so profound.
因为他们看过我怎么
Because they had seen how I fooled foreigners and they thought it was very good.
忽悠老外的，是吧？他们觉得现场效果非常不错
So they said you act as the host and guest speaker. So he's basically saying we put on the event, and at the same time we are the hosts and the guest speaker, essentially controlling the entire conversation. He's saying you're so good at fooling the foreigners. He's saying, yeah, if you're both the host and the panel, of course you can put out whatever message you want.
你来主持兼嘉宾所以那次跟咱们今天这个活动很相似。我既是主持又是嘉宾。地点呢，领导定下来了说这个谁，你们下周礼拜四下午3点半去那个美国最重要的政治与散文书店在那个华盛顿肯尼迪克大街2650号吧，好像是去那边专业书店。
So he got his marching orders, and he's telling this particular parable, this anecdote, to go to this particular bookstore. It's apparently the most influential bookstore in Washington, and he was ordered that he had to hold it there at a certain time.
去那边办一个新书发布会然后我们就一线赶紧去沟通大家知道这个东西方工作方式不一样，你临时抱佛脚让我去沟通这个地点时间是吧？很麻烦的。结果那个书店老板很傲娇，说抱歉，接待不了接待不了。后来我就问了，我说你告诉我哪位作者把这个场次定下来了？啥意思天下没有美元搞不定的事情，是吧？
This is what do you mean by that? There's nothing that dollars can't handle, right? So in his experience, there's he can bribe anybody in Washington. In this case, he's just talking about some the people that run this particular bookstore. But he essentially he's in his experience. This is what it is. Notice he called the bookstore arrogant. Arrogant because they had a booking and they refused to cancel the booking just because this guy wanted them to. That's arrogance. Apparently honoring their the event that they booked is arrogance. But I guess I'm not judging him ethically here. He's right. I mean, if you offer the person that originally booked the event or group, if you offer them money, and I'm sure that there is a price at which they'd probably say, okay, you can have the slot. So let's watch him deal with this further.
是吧？如果1打美元搞不定，是吧？那我就2打。这个当然这是我的工作方式了，是吧？结果，那么结果呢？这个书店老板
Okay, so in this case, understand though. But alas, the bookstore owner was very spoiled and said, "I'm sorry."
很傲娇说抱歉，我不会告诉你哪个作者。
I'm not going to tell you which author has booked this time slot. So essentially, the bookstore was not playing ball with his bribe, and he calls that arrogant. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. Let's see, quick super chat here. Brando Commando, off topic, but Arkansas, Alabama, Florida, Kentucky, Mississippi, South Carolina, and South Dakota joined the Texas case as well. Yeah, Not surprised by that. Thank you for that update, Brando Commando. Not surprised. I figured that other states would quickly join. But here he is. He's basically annoyed in this story that the bookstore owner just like, you know what? I'm not going to take your bribe, dude, and I'm not going to help you with that. So here's how he got around it, I guess, or how it was gotten around.
已经把这个新书这个时间段给定下来，是吧？我们是有原则的啊，他跟我非常傲娇啊，跟我很装。后来一打听才知道，这哥们儿啊。
So I asked around and found out that he was a Democrat before. He's being very specific here when he talks about the corruption here.
以前是民主党人，他是民主党人，以前做过驻亚洲的记者啊，对我党啊非常有看法，所以故意的不配合。后来我以为这事儿得黄啊，至少得换时间换地点是吧？结果，我们把矛盾上交嘛，让领导去解决吧，是吧？反正我。
So again, he's explaining here that he kicked this up to his leaders. He figured there was nothing more he could do here. He's too low level, so he told his leaders and he left the problem to them to handle about where to book this thing.
我是客串的帮忙的是吧？结果到了礼拜四早上。咱们那个部的一位副部级领导啊，也是那天的真正的 keynote speaker 是吧？他给我打电话说：“小弟啊，咱们按我方原计划，在那个时间，在那个地点继续照办。”啊，吃完午饭我就赶去，结果领导到的比我还早，给我介绍啊，今天我们之所以能够按照我方原计划得以顺利执行，就是因为这个啊，我们今天这位功臣，顺他介绍。
I find this funny that he describes this old lady that he was introduced to as she has a big nose. Now, I'm laughing. I don't think Susan WikiWiki is going to like this, but you're going to catch on really quick what he's talking about when he's talking about this big-nosed old lady. I mean, it just becomes clear, he's got a subtext, and I think you'll be able to catch on.
一位大鼻子老太太是吧？一看就犹太人。这个老太太给我递名片。
He just said, I could tell that she's Jewish by the first glimpse. I mean, just the open anti-Semitism here. This big-nosed Jewish lady, she hands him a business card saying, and introduces herself.
啊，我叫某某某啊，我这名字不卖了是吧？我叫某某某，请多关照。注意啊，一口流利的京片子。
And he notes that she speaks. Now, this is the interesting part. He notes that she speaks fluent Mandarin with a Beijing dialect, and he notes that it's superior to his own. Basically, he's saying that his dialect of Mandarin Chinese is essentially he's like some provincial rube that he believes he sounds. That he sounds like a provincial rube, and that this woman speaks Chinese with a better Beijing accent, which I guess is would be like the received maybe pronunciation in the United Kingdom. So I guess it's more prestigious to speak with the accent of the capital of China than this his provincial Mandarin.
京片子，北京话。然后我很惊讶，我说：“哎呀，您这个中文讲的比我还棒啊！我永远改不掉我的江苏口音，您这个一点口音都没有啊，是吧？”
Okay, so look, I guess he's from a province called Jiangsu. Let me back that up a minute. I was very surprised. I said, "Oh my, you speak Chinese even better than I do." I can never get rid of my Jiangsu accent. So he's like, this lady speaks Chinese better than I do.
口音，您这个一点口音都没有啊，是吧？老太听我夸她口音好啊，得意了。我告诉你啊，我不但会讲中文，
He says she has Chinese citizenship. That's a pretty tough trick to pull off. I mean, he's going to explain it as well. He's going to confirm what I always thought. I don't think you're allowed to have dual citizenship in China. If you are a Chinese citizen, you're a citizen of China. As far that's what I believe. I don't think China allows dual loyalty. So he's going to go on to explain that. So I'm going to have to look into that, but I think that's the case.
我还有中国国籍，大家知道吧？你有外国国籍吗？你如果有外国国籍，你不可能有中国国籍嘛，是不是？他。
This old lady wouldn't give up her dual U.S. Israeli citizenship for Chinese citizenship. At least that's what he thought. Apparently, he thought wrong. think about it. If she became an official citizen of China, she would have had to have renounced both her U.S. and Israeli citizenship.
这样的老太太是不可能为了中国国籍放弃美国和以色列双重国籍的，是这意思吧？哎，好，我一下明白了。
So then he understood she's an old friend of us Chinese people. In other words, she's one of the people that he's talking about that they have in Washington that work essentially directly on their behalf. And you're going to see, he's going to describe what these people do for the Chinese Communist Party.
这是我们中国人民老朋友了，是吧？啊，然后这时候这个，然后下边还有一句话啊，这个让我印象非常深刻。我不但有中国国籍，我还有北京市户口。
She said, I not only have Chinese citizenship, but also have Beijing Hukao, registered permanent residence. So you have to remember, China's not like the United States. You can't just move anywhere you want. You have to basically register wherever you go. The government keeps tabs on you, especially if you're a foreigner. Let me tell you, I've spoken to many people that have spent time in China. You are essentially tracked, followed, and kept tabs on if you are a foreigner in China. And if you move, you have to tell them. This is not something that you can get around. I mean, you could evade them for a little while if you try to sneak. You know, you could try to like pay rent in two places and then just live in the new one, and just tell them you live in the old one. Eventually, they will catch on because the people around, people will rat you out over there. It's remember, this is a totalitarian society. She said, I not only have Chinese citizenship, but she's also a registered resident of the, I guess, the Hukao area of Beijing.
口啊，长安街边上东城区有套四合院啊，等你回了北。
Let me read this part. I have a Sihewan quadrangle dwelling on Chang'an Street in the Dongcheng district. When you come back to Beijing, come and have tea with me. I mean, it's basically this woman essentially is a Chinese national in the United States. If she basically she's so well off in Chinese society that they let her have this prestigious dwelling on this prestigious street in their capital. And she's like inviting them to come over to tea, have tea in my courtyard.
北京过来喝茶是吧？这一年你在这儿有啥事儿，记得找我，意思嘛？这一点我罩得住啊。然后我这时候看见这个前边。
So remember the original point of the story, the bookstore that he wanted to book the event in. That the bookstore owner told him, "No, you can't have the event at the time you want. Someone else has that time slot."
很傲娇的是吧？那个书店老板满脸黑线，安排员工排桌子排椅子，很不情愿，被人强摁着干这事儿，接着茬儿，是吧？我说您怎么搞定他的？是吧
？So how'd you fix him? Remember the original context of when he said, "How come we couldn't fix Trump or the Trump administration?" So that's the context. When he says fix, he means essentially to bribe or get them to do what you want. That's the context of fix here. That the translation here might people are thinking it might be iffy. It may be that that's the closest English word to what he's saying in Chinese. Remember, not every word translates word for word between languages. It's So how did you fix him? So they got the time slot. He wants to know what happened. What his leadership did that got them the time slot. We tried to communicate with him, but failed.
我们前面沟通不下来啊，这个很傲娇的。老太太皎洁一笑，我跟她讲道理。大家知道这话来路吧？美国著名黑手党电影《教父》里边的经典台词，把人家马头给砍了，是吧？
Alright, so he's saying that the guy that we couldn't bribe to get the time slot, or who wouldn't help us in our efforts to commit a bribe, that the old lady said we reasoned with him. We reasoned with him. And he compared it to the scene in The Godfather when the Hollywood producer, when he wouldn't give the movie picture to the Godfather's godson, Johnny Fontaine, when they cut off the horse's head of the racehorse that the movie producer owned and loved, and he woke up in bed with the bloody horse's head. Okay, so He's saying that they used maybe not threats of violence, maybe threats of retaliation, business-wise, reputation-wise, things like that. I'm going to assume that's what he means. I hope he doesn't mean that they threatened violence against this guy, but that they quote unquote reasoned with him, and he compares the reasoning to the infamous gangster movie.
国里边啊，当然老太太不是这个黑手党。
Okay, so the old lady, she's not in the mafia, but who was she?
她的身份是什么？她为什么在中国住了30年？
So this part I didn't. Why did she live in China for 30 years? Why can she speak fluent Beijing dialect?
啊，为什么讲口流利今天的？就刚才我们讲到的全球华尔。
As we just said, Wall Street. She is from a famous, leading a global financial institution on Wall Street. Now, right there, my rabbit ears went up, and right away I'm like, Goldman Sachs. He's talking about Goldman Sachs here. Who else would have someone living in China for 30 years who is rich enough, makes enough money to have a residence in that area of Beijing that she was talking about? Rich enough to essentially, you don't just become a Chinese citizen. I know people who've lived in China for more than 20 years and can't become a citizen. You are essentially a barbarian, a foreigner. The word they use for you over there, I think, even translates as alien or foreign or barbarian. She's from a famous leading global financial institution on Wall Street. I'm not, the Jewish thing is not so important to me, but if you say an old Jewish lady who's lived in China for 30 years, from a quote unquote famous leading global, that's the key term there, famous leading global financial institution on Wall Street, I'm gonna guess, my first guess is gonna be Goldman Sachs.
华尔街某著名金融机构、顶级金融机构的亚洲。
She is the president of the Asia region of a top-level financial institution, and that just narrows it down. So, I mean, you have someone who's the head of the Asia region of a top-level financial institution, one that he deems as famous, and one that would have that kind of pull in Washington in the United States. So I'm 99% certain he's talking about Goldman Sachs here.
洲区的总裁啊，当然再说下去可能政治不正确了，大家明白我意思吧？懂得掌声啊！
Okay, as we sit through this Liberty Mutual ad,
research shows people.
Let me just describe. He then says he can't go further because it'd be politically incorrect. So I'm guessing when he says sensitive, he senses that he's stepping into something that might get him in trouble with social justice warriors. Listen to how cagey he is with that. Of course, it would be politically incorrect for me to go on.
当然再说下去可能政治不正确了，大家明白我意思？
Do you understand what I mean? So he's speaking in code here, is he? He's like, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? So it's clear to me that he's talking about Goldman Sachs, and again, there's this undertone where he's afraid to talk too much about the whole Jewish aspect, even though he's the one that brought it up. It's just, to me, it just seems so funny the way he's trying to be cagey here, as if you can't figure out what he's talking about. This is fascinating to me that even a Chinese man in front of a Chinese audience, he's aware that it's being live streamed. So I guess that's why he's being cagey.
意思吧？懂得掌声啊！好。 那么其实呢，就是说啊，说的白了点儿啊，其实呢，就过去这个30年啊，过去40年，我们在美国的。
So he's saying for the last 30, 40 years, we've been utilizing the core power of the United States. He's saying that China has basically owned the United States for the last 30 to 40 years.
他的这个利用他权势核心圈，是不是？我前面讲过，华尔街在
Since the 1970s.
70年代开始对美国
Wall Street had a very strong influence on the domestic and foreign affairs of the United States. So again, he's saying that China basically leverages Wall Street to get what they want in the United States, and he's going to describe that that methodology. Incoming super chat from Shecky Shebang. Gotta work tomorrow. Keep spitting the truth, Neo. Well, thank you very much, Shecky. Thank you for watching. See you next time. So he's going to go on to describe the mechanism by which the Chinese Communist Party goes through Wall Street to basically get whatever they want in the United States.
它的内政外交有非常强的影响力啊，所以我们有路径依赖，是吧？
Calls it the channel that they relied on, the Wall Street channel.
但问题是，08年之后，华尔街的地位下降了。更重要的是，16年之后。
He's saying that while Wall Street's status in the United States declined after 2008, notice the important date he points out. More importantly, after 2016, and I'm sure you can infer from that where he's going.
华尔街
Wall Street can't fix Trump. And again, remember the meaning of the word fix, the way he uses it. Fix, to my mind, it translates as what we would call bribe or influence, if you want to be charitable. Another incoming super chat from 16. We love you long time, baby. Okay. I see where you're going with that one. So let me repeat that. Wall Street can't fix Trump. A reason I'm pointing this out, remember, is this is now the third instance where we've seen this translated as fix. And in the previous two translations where she used the word fix, this is Jenny Zhang, this fix, I think it could be translated as bribe. Wall Street can't bribe or say leverage or influence Trump, if you want to be less strong. That's my take, guys. I mean, this is the third time we've seen this word used in context. Incoming super chat from Lost for Words. Keep up the good work, F. Biden. Yeah, basically Beijing Joe. And just remember that, in the context that we talked about a Chinese spy who was doing bundling for Eric Swalwell. And now we have this guy complaining that, back in 2016, all of a sudden, we can't fix this Trump guy. So he's going to describe the trouble that they've had since 2016 to 2020. And why things are looking up now in 2020, that things are about to change again. Let's let him go on.
不进特朗普，为什么？很尴尬。特朗普以前对华尔街
Trump had a previous soft default issue with Wall Street.
有过一次软性违约，所以双方
So there was a conflict between them. Funny. He's saying because Trump essentially was enemies with Wall Street in his perception, that this conflict prevented them from using Wall Street to basically, quote unquote, fix Trump.
有矛盾啊。当然，这个细节我就不多说了，时间可能已经来不及了，是吧？那么，这个中美贸易战过程中
，Wall Street tried to help.
他们也试图帮忙啊。据我所知，美方的朋友跟我讲，这个
My friends on the U.S. side told me they tried to help. Remember, basically this guy was a Chinese official. My friends on the U.S. side told me they tried to help to, quote unquote, fix Trump.
试图帮忙，但是力有不逮啊。但现在呢？现在我们看到
But now we're seeing Biden was elected. Well, we're going to see how this changes things.
拜登上台了，传统的精英政
The traditional elite, the political elite, the establishment. This guy names the establishment. This is a guy bragging that they own the establishment.
治精英啊，这个建制派，他们跟华
They're
尔街的
very
关
close to Wall Street. So you see that, right? I can't believe he has to. This is so open, so unfettered. It's so honest. This is so fascinating to me that he sees no need to be facetious about it. It's like almost bragging to the audience here. How that establishment, that traditional elite, we own it.
关系是非常密切的，所以大家看到吧，拜登的儿子被
Here he's going to talk about Hunter. Trump's been saying that Biden's son. Let's see what he has to say about Hunter.
特朗普说你在全球有
And he has some sort of global foundation. Have you noticed that? Even in China, they know to deal with Hunter. This is unreal. You can't make this up. This guy's talking about Hunter.
基金公司发现没有？谁帮他建
Who helped him, Biden's son, build the foundations? This is what I've been saying all along. It's like anybody could put two and two together when you see all these billions of dollars under management by Hunter and his partners coming from China. Remember, they got the $1.5 billion, for their fund coming under management. I mean, this is insane. He's basically laying it right out. Who do you think helped them build the foundations?
基金公司啊，明白吗？这里边都有买卖啊。
There are a lot of deals in all of these. I mean, this to me is required viewing. If you're an American and you don't know what the hell, if you don't know what the bottom line is with the Hunter Biden stuff, why I thought it was important. I guess this just confirms what I was thinking. This guy's like, who do you think helped him with that? Who do you think gave him the money? Here he is. Look, there's a lot of deals and all that.
那么，所以这个
And
时候
they're clapping. They're like, hey, you own Hunter Biden? You own the son of the next president of the United States? Wow, you did a good job.
这个时候我们以恰当的方式进行。
We use an appropriate way to express some goodwill. He's basically saying we bribe you, we give you money. That's an appropriate way, quote unquote, to express goodwill.
一定的这样一个表达一个善意啊，我个人理解。当然，这个
This is my personal understanding based on my limited professional background. So essentially, he's saying that, exchanging bribes, is the way you show your appreciation of foreign officials and people that are close to foreign officials.
受限于我的专业基础是吧？我们是从国际政治经济学的角度去理解这个事儿。那么我认为啊
I think there's a tactical and political value in buying off people in the United States at the center of power. You think?
有它的战术和政治的价值在里边啊。当然，另外一方面
This guy is essentially describing the virtues of bribery and influence peddling. I mean, this is like almost like watching the Star Trek mirror universe. I mean, granted, I use as my avatar, Niccolo Machiavelli, and I'm sure he'd agree with many of the statements being made here. But it's just rare, almost refreshing even, to see a government official being just so open about it. Hey, there's tactical value in owning your rival's political elite.
这个中美之间开放本身是吧？现在我们开放金融市场，许多人以为说开放金融市场，你是不是向人做了重大让步？你开放金融市场是不是就是？
So I'm going to stop it here because I believe from this point on he's just going to go on and talk about in his opinion why China should open up its markets a little further. He's saying because the Biden is coming in that they're basically going to be able to run roughshod over the United States. That don't worry, we got this. The people that are coming in, we own them. So here's, I guess Tucker Carlson. He caught wind of this video. It's gone viral. People have seen it, and I guess he did his own segment on this. Let's see what Tucker had to say about this video.
Many of the very people who ranted so hysterically about Russia were, even as they were doing it, even as they were yelling about Vladimir Putin, in fact, they were doing precisely what they claimed to decry. They were working on behalf of a foreign power, our chief global rival, the government of China. The Russia hoax effectively was a diversion. It hid something that is not a hoax at all, but that is real and threatening to all of us. We're going to spend the foreseeable future reporting on the relationship between America's political and financial elites and the communist government of China that has made many of them very rich. But we want to start tonight with evidence, with a remarkable video. This video was recorded a little over a week ago, on November 28th. The man you're about to see speak is a professor from Beijing called Dong Cheng. The video comes from an appearance that he made on a Chinese television show about Wall Street and international trade. Dong Cheng works at Renmin University in Beijing. He is also, like so many in academia in China, a servant of his country's government. This video was deleted from Chinese social media soon after being uploaded, and there's a reason for that, as you'll see.
I'm shocked that they deleted it. Why would they do such a thing?
前边特朗普政府跟我们打贸易战，那么我们为什么搞不定特朗普政府？啊，为什么以前1992年到2016年之间，中美之间各种问题都能搞得定？是不是？大家发现没有？所有的危机，不管是银河号事件，还是炸大使馆，还是撞了飞机，所有事情全部是床头吵架床尾和，2个月之内搞定。什么原因？啊，这儿我抛出一个可能。
I hope you guys can read the subtitles. I hope they're large enough. So a lot of you are watching this, so maybe on your phones and tablets. But he's back at the part where he's saying, why couldn't we quote unquote fix the Trump administration? And this is where he goes into the the old lady with the big nose stuff.
又要是暴论了，就是因为咱们上边有人，啊，就是我们在美国的权势核心圈啊。
Said she as he describes it, the top of America's core inner circle of power and influence being Wall Street.
我们有我们的老朋友。
There's a lot of garbage floating around the internet right now, a lot of fake things. That video is real, and those subtitles are accurate. We checked today with 2 different Chinese speakers and confirmed that. What he just said, what you just read on the screen, tells the story. This is as close to a smoking gun as we have ever seen. Quote, we have people at the top of America's core inner circle of power and influence. According to the man you just saw, that has been true for decades. So who are these people, and how many of them work in our media and in our government? Well, he didn't say precisely. At one point in the video, he described a Chinese agent working as a vice president at, quote, a top Wall Street financial institution. I can't say more, he explained, without making political trouble. Di Dongsheng did tell his audience that one agent in particular was especially useful, and he goes on at some length about her. He describes her as an American who's lived abroad for many years, who is now a Chinese citizen. And this seems to baffle him a little bit. The Chinese government doesn't allow dual citizenship. Why would they? Why would anyone? Di Dongsheng seems pleased that the U.S. government is foolish enough to allow it. He explains that this American agent, who lives at least part of the year in Beijing, helped the Chinese government with a propaganda operation in the city of Washington in 2015. And he goes on to describe that in some detail. The Obama administration was easy to manipulate, he suggests. They helped. The Chinese had many friends among the Obama people. The problem came when Donald Trump was elected. After that, he says, everything changed.
是呢，就过去这个30年啊，过去40年，我们在美国的他的这个利用他权势核心圈，是不是？我前面讲过，华尔街在1970年代开始对美国它的内政外交有非常强的影响力，啊，所以我们有路径。
I mean, I just want to point out again, he just calls it a channel that they could rely on. It's like this is an integral part of of Chinese foreign policy, at least with regard to the United States. Would he say the same about their relationship with the United Kingdom, the European Union? I wonder. You know, I'd have to think so. I mean, I don't think it operates that differently over there. So this is the basically our insight into how China operates, at least in our country.
依赖是吧？但问题是，08年之后，华尔街的地位下降了。更重要的是，16年之后，华尔街搞不定特朗普，为什么？很尴尬。特朗普以前对华尔街有过一次。
Describing that because Trump is essentially not part of the club. He's not one of the insiders. That because he's in essentially a default state of conflict with Wall Street, has been for years. It's fascinating to me that he describes the trouble that this caused China.
软性违约，所以双方有矛盾啊。当然，这个细节我就不多说了，时间可能已经来不及了，是吧？那么，这个中美贸易战过程中，他们也试图帮忙啊。据我所知，美方的朋友跟我讲，这个试图帮忙，但是啊，力有不逮啊。
Since the 1970s, he said, and he's an economics professor, you should know, Wall Street has had enormous influence over the way the United States government operates, over American policy. The Chinese government, he says, has enormous influence on Wall Street.
Oh, look.
And that arrangement worked very well.
You have Tucker describing, I mean, this is the same stuff. I actually haven't seen this Tucker segment yet. So it seems like he's basically taking the same thing I took from that video.
For a long time. Then Donald Trump unexpectedly was elected in 2016, and Wall Street was infuriated. Wall Street can't fix Trump, he said, but they tried. And this solves the mystery. If you're wondering why our political class has stood by and allowed the Chinese government to degrade this country and our way of life, why they've stood by as the Chinese government has flooded the United States with deadly opioids that have killed hundreds of thousands of people, or have stood by as the Chinese government ripped off billions in intellectual property from our companies, there's your answer. Earlier this year, the chairman of Harvard's chemistry department was arrested for taking $50,000 a month from the Communist Party of China.
I wish I'd remembered that. It wasn't that long ago when this news came out, when this guy basically took money to spy for China.
China, in return for sending secrets and referring top scientists to Beijing. It barely rated as a scandal. You may not even be aware it happened. Why? Because so many are on the take, in effect. Donald Trump was an impediment to this very lucrative arrangement. And for that reason, Di Zhongsheng explains in the video, America's most powerful elites, and he calls them that, got to work on electing a new president. Again, read the words at the bottom of your screen as he speaks.
但现在呢，现在我们看到拜登上台了。传统的精英、政治精英啊，这个建制派，他们跟华尔街的关系是非常密切的。所以大家看到吧，拜登的儿子被特朗普。
I love that he goes into the Hunter stuff and says it like, hey, it's common sense. Of course we own Hunter Biden. Who do you think got him? What they call those foundations? I guess he means companies or that he's involved with. Like, who do you think helped him out with that?
说你在全球有什么基金公司？发现没有？谁帮他建的基金公司啊？明白吗？这里边都有买卖啊。那么，所以这个
applause from the audience. Good job. You compromised the son of the president elect.
之后啊，这个时候我们。
Oh, Donald Trump, he notes, because the Chinese do pay close attention to what we say here, Donald Trump has complained about Hunter Biden and his ties to the Chinese government. Those are real, he just confirms. So now you know why you weren't allowed to talk about Hunter Biden's laptop, why big business aligned as one, the tech companies and the rest, to suppress that story, because they were implicated in it. Back in October, we interviewed a man called Tony Bobulinski. We interviewed him because no one else would. Tony Bobulinski was a business partner of the Bidens. Here's what he told us about China.
And in a document that you guys have, and I think it's been provided to the world, the Chinese referenced that because of their trust in the Biden family, that Chairman Yi and Director Zhang are excited about moving forward in this. And in that document, they reference loaning $5 million to the BD family.
Right.
The BD family is the Biden family.
What are the implications of this going forward? If Joe Biden is elected president, which could very well happen, how does this constrain his ability to deal with China?
Are you asking for my personal opinion?
I am. I'm asking for your opinion as someone who's worked with the Chinese.
So I think Joe Biden and the Biden family are compromised.
I think Joe Biden and the Biden family are compromised
really, you think?
with China. Looks like he was right about that, and it looks like the Bidens are far from the only ones who've been compromised. Gordon Chang has been covering this story for an awfully long time.
Okay, so that's Hunter's take, surprisingly, almost basically word for word with how I took it. I mean, how else could you describe it? Here's a friend of the show, Adam Krigler. I think he agreed with me on my take that it was got to be Goldman Sachs that he's talking about there in that video where he's talking about the Jewish lady with the big nose stationed there in Asia for 30 years, somehow having Chinese citizenship, speaking in a I mean, let's read this story. Goldman Sachs shifts to full ownership of China Securities joint venture. Wow, this story just came out today. What an interesting timing here. Goldman Sachs shifts to full ownership of China Securities joint venture. So all of a sudden, Goldman Sachs is the first major foreign institution. And remember, that speech on November 28th was talking about opening China's markets to foreign companies, why they should do it. And here's Goldman Sachs becoming the first foreign and major investment company to assume full ownership of a Chinese securities joint venture. Hong Kong, Reuters. Goldman Sachs Group Incorporated has signed a pact to buy out its China joint venture partner to make it the most advanced foreign bank to take full ownership of a mainland securities business. What a coincidence that the Didong Sheng over there is talking about why China should further open up its markets to foreign investors. And here's Goldman Sachs being the first one to dive right in and take advantage of that further opening in the wake of the Biden being elected. The process to boost its stake in the Goldman Sachs Gaohua venture from 51% to 100% has also been initiated with regulators, according to an internal memo issued on Tuesday to staff of the Wall Street Bank. A spokesman for Goldman Sachs in Hong Kong confirmed the memo content. Most of the international banks in China own 51% of their securities businesses, which typically house investment banking operations with a Chinese partner. JP Morgan took 71% of its joint venture in November when it bought an extra 20% stake in the mainland business, and analysts believe it could be the next in line to move to full ownership. JP Morgan declined to comment. Credit Suisse flagged in July it wanted to own 100% of its China securities venture, but declined to comment on how advanced it was in the process. Goldman has previously indicated it would double its headcount in China to 600 people by 2025 as part of its expansion plans. Listen, if you're in the financial services industry, essentially the United States and Europe, it's tapped out. I mean, in terms of the client, the share of the clientele that you're going to have there, you're only going to cannibalize clients that are held by other Western investment banks. The real growth market is China. That's where all the new billionaires are coming in, and that's where you'd like to get the accounts of these Chinese millionaires and billionaires, because there's just so many of them. And China's got like almost 1.5 billion people. It's where the growth is. So Goldman is planning on doubling its headcount in China to 600. Now, in another life, I used to actually work in this industry, peripheral. It was nothing major, but I used to know a few guys that worked at Goldman. Nobody close, just people that you knew in the industry. And let me tell you guys, I will say hands down, the sickest, hardest workers I've ever seen in any industry. In terms of, these guys would work 80, 100-hour weeks, and that would be like normal for them. You'd almost never see them. They'd have no life. These people would get hired out of the Ivy Leagues, and they'd make a lot of money up front, but essentially for the first 20 years of their employment at Goldman Sachs, they'd have no life. And there was this one guy in particular, like, you'd never see the guy, because every time you asked where he was, he had a call, he had to go to Asia, and he would disappear there for like weeks. And this was like almost 20 years ago, so just imagine. That was then. Imagine now. I mean, they want to double their headcount in China to 600. So when he describes that old Jewish lady with the big nose, again, that's the way he worded it, and how she spent 30 years in Asia. Put two and two together. I think he was talking about Goldman Sachs in terms of who would be over there that long and have that kind of pull, and who would also, at the same time, have that kind of leverage here in Washington. The terms of the Goldman Sachs deal have not yet been made public. Unlike most of the other Chinese joint ventures, Goldman had day-to-day operation. Notice the exceptional. Everything for Goldman is exceptional. Unlike most of the other Chinese joint ventures, Goldman had day-to-day operational control of its business, which offers investment banking services such as equities and bond underwriting and deal advice, even with its minority ownership. Full ownership could allow foreign banks to expand their operations in the multi-trillion-dollar Chinese financial sector and better integrate them with their global businesses. You see why Goldman had a direct interest in getting Trump out of there, ending the trade war with China. They want in on that not multi-billion, multi-trillion-dollar Chinese financial sector. You understand? 100% ownership of our franchise on the mainland represents a significant commitment to an investment in China. So you think that Goldman is going to be in favor of decoupling into with a significant commitment and investment that they've made in China, outlined in their China strategic plan? And let me tell you about these people at Goldman. When they say they have a strategic plan, they're not joking. These people, they don't play games. So this nonsense, that he was talking about when he said, talking about, they were talking about decoupling over there. But I say we have to continue to open and make concessions. What he means is we have to let them in because they're our old friends. And by letting their old friends in, they could count on their old friends to give China what they want here in the United States. And it looks like they've just let in their old friends. Goldman Sachs. You want further proof of this? Here's more. Joe Biden's coronavirus czar hosted Hunter Biden-linked Chinese elites at White House. What a shock that Jeff Zients, this is according to Breitbart, Jeff Zients, the man who Joe Biden is entrusting to run his administration's response to the novel coronavirus pandemic. Remember how China hoarded its PPE, turned the boats around during the coronavirus pandemic? Products that were bought and paid for by U.S. entities and corporations got turned around and brought back to China. But the man who basically was bringing the Chinese elites and people into the White House during the Obama administration for Hunter Biden, he's now in charge of the administration's response, or at least will be, to the coronavirus pandemic. So he used to host the groups of the Chinese business and political elites at the Obama-era White House after prodding from Hunter Biden's business associates. On Monday, Biden's team announced that Zients would serve as coordinator of the COVID-19 response and counselor to the president. When the new administration takes office in January, Zients, who serves as co-chair of Biden's Presidential Transition Task Force, will lead the White House's response to the coronavirus outbreak. The role is likely... Okay, so they go on to describe what his role will be. So here we have Zients in particular is likely to face questions over a meeting he helped host at the Obama-era White House in November 2011 with the Chinese Entrepreneur Club, the CEC. The CEC, founded in 2006 and often referred to as the richest club in the People's Republic of China, counts among its members some of the richest and most influential personalities of Chinese society, all of whom, remember, are members of the Chinese Communist Party. At the time, Zients was the deputy director of the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, a position in which he was tasked with restructuring the Obama administration's trade agencies. The meeting did not draw much attention when it first took place. However, emails published earlier this year by Peter Schweitzer, senior contributor at Breitbart News and president of the Government Accountability Institute, indicated just how important a role Hunter Biden and his business associates, including Devon Archer, who, by the way, is headed to prison for a financial scandal, played in making the White House visit happen. The emails showed that on November 5th, 2011, a colleague of Archer's reached out to suggest there was an opportunity to gain outstanding new clients. Those outstanding new clients being the people in the CEC, the rich Chinese club, who essentially is basically a front group for the Chinese foreign intelligence. A tour of the White House and a meeting with a member of the Chief of Staff's office and then Secretary of State John Kerry would be great, the colleague wrote. Up to that point, the CEC had tried and failed to obtain access to the Obama administration. From the D.C. side, as you will see below, they, CEC, have written letters to several members of the administration, and others have so far not had a strong reaction, the colleague wrote Archer. Archer discussed the CEC's request with two other associates, Gary Fears and Bevan Cooney. Bevan Cooney, if you don't know, I believe he's currently in prison for that same financial scandal and fraud that Devin Archer is headed to prison for. You know, basically they defrauded an American Indian tribe on some bond issue. Fears, in particular, told Archer to follow up on the request since the CEC delegation could be perfect for a fertilizer mining venture the trio was then pursuing. It's unclear exactly what transpired after the emails reached Archer. Only 9 days later, on November 14, 2011, the CEC had secured its meeting at the Obama White House. Administration records indicate a delegation of 30 CEC members received a tour of the White House and met with then Commerce Secretary John Bryson. The delegation also, according to its members, met privately with Hunter Biden's father, then Vice President Joe Biden. I am shocked. Shocked that the Chinese group of movers and shakers was brought in to meet Joe Biden when Hunter Biden's business partner basically got them that meeting that they had been denied previously. You see what they mean by our old friends in Washington? They have sellouts here. Basically, they got to Hunter Biden and his pals, Devin Archer, people like that. And that's how the Chinese they got things done. Exactly how Archer and his associates arranged the meeting for the CEC is unknown. Visitor logs, though, show that Zients was the official host for the CEC delegation. It's unclear if any arrangements made by Hunter Biden or associates for the CEC ran through Zients or the OMB. Now do you see what they gave Hunter Biden and Devin Archer all that money for? You see the $1.5 billion that that they backstopped to go to the joint venture that Hunter Biden and Devin Archer were running. Unbelievable. What do I have that here? I have a report on the Monster Hunter film. Now, those of you who are movie aficionados, you may know of an upcoming movie called Monster Hunter. Now, apparently the Chinese got this film pulled from Chinese theaters over a, quote, racist joke. Now, here, keep this in mind. We just saw that video where we had this Chinese official talking about Jewish ladies with big noses. And they're worried about this joke, that the tiny one-liner that appears in this movie, Monster Hunter, and they banned the film from the country. After just one day at the box office, the Paul W.S. Anderson-directed, Mia Jovovich-led live-action adaptation of Capcom's Monster Hunter franchise has been pulled from theaters in China following a vocal backlash from Chinese audiences against a racial joke featured in the film. The joke, as captured by... Now, this is a stretch to me, because this one-liner, you tell me how you could interpret this. The joke is captured by video game industry analyst Resetra. I hate that site. Resetra admin Daniel Ahmad sees a soldier, seemingly apropos of nothing, ask his squad mate to guess what kind of knees are these, before responding with the punchline Chinese. So according to Ahmad, the joke was being linked to the rhyme/phrase, Chinese, Japanese, dirty knees, look at these, which is considered offensive. Now, I had to look up this reference. And, I mean, when they say widely interpreted, I mean, I use that word reservedly because it seems pretty obscure to me. The phrase is widely interpreted as a taunt towards Asian immigrants, Chinese, Japanese, who immigrated to Western countries as laborers, dirty knees, with the final phrase meant to draw the immigrants' attention to the comparatively large chest sizes of Western women. Look at these. I mean, just from that alone, they banned the movie. Literally, that's all the guy said. The guy in the movie said, guess what kind of knees are these? And says Chinese. That's it. That was it. that got the movie banned. Essentially, this movie's going to probably lose money because, you know, China's probably one of the only markets that actually have people going to movie theaters. This is it. This got the movie banned. So, again, we have Hollywood in this case having to bend the knee. Now, they actually offered to basically remove the entire scene from the movie. And nope, China said ban. So Hollywood is basically owned by China. So I mean, I think I've hit most of the main points that I wanted to hit in this. We have this situation with just China, the way they more or less have infiltrated all the major cultural and political and academic institutions in the United States. We had essentially this story break about the Chinese spy Fang Fang and how close she got to Eric Swalwell. We have this Chinese official bragging about how they own the cultural elite and their old friends there at presumably Goldman Sachs and Wall Street, how they own Hunter Biden. He's like, hey, who do you think helped Hunter Biden with all that stuff that Trump was complaining about? Yeah, I mean, they have Hollywood, they have the educational. I forgot about that Harvard professor, or is he a dean even of a department, where he was basically arrested for espionage because he was taking money to provide China with with secrets. So the video or the casual description of how China moves their pawns in the United States to get what they want. That was the big thing I wanted to get across. But let's see if I can find the other issue that I wanted to talk about. All right, so we'll get rid of all of this. Got the tab game going today. All right. We'll open these. So I want to briefly discuss, I'm sure you guys, this is old news. This was a few days old, where Joe Biden's doctor, giving an update about the 78-year-old gets hurt playing with the dog major. I just thought it was kind of funny. Joe Biden falling down because he played with the dog. It basically reminded me about all those times that we heard that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was falling down in her house and getting hurt, and she had to go to the hospital all the time. And I remember thinking at the time, really? I mean, are we supposed to just ignore the fact that typically when old people tend to lose it, especially cognitively, that they tend to fall down a lot? Now, normally when you fall down, it doesn't require a trip to the hospital because normally you could defend yourself. What happens when you have cognitive issues is that you're falling. If you have like some sort of seizure or some kind of cognitive difficulty, you're falling in a way that you're not conscious or able to protect yourself, and that's why you get hurt. But I guess the importance, didn't want to dive too deeply into the fact that Biden fell and got hurt. I mean, I wish him well. I don't want Biden to get hurt physically. But I thought it was funny because you had a lot of people in the media using this as some way to praise the transparency of the Biden administration as compared, presumably, to the Trump administration, especially about the medical issues, saying that we don't know why Trump visited Walter Reed, even though we have no evidence that there was anything really wrong with Trump. And that look at how open and transparent Biden was. Well, not so much. We had this grainy image of Biden exiting the hobbling out of the orthopedic office, because remember, he actually broke his foot. They were trying to tell us that it was a sprain. He broke his foot. Hairline fractures means you have a broken foot. So he's hobbling out of the office there. And they tried to block anyone from viewing him. They banned any of the pool reporters from taking any video. They tried to block his view. Here he is hobbling out. They tried to block this with some kind of van. So the reason I'm playing this video is to point out the obvious as they strain to clap Biden on the back for his transparency. Well, how are they going to not be transparent without Biden basically disappearing from view for the next 2 months? He's got a cast on his leg, and he can't walk from the 10 feet from the door to this vehicle, without hobbling. How are they going to hide it? It's just, am I the only one that sees the obvious here? How is it being transparent when you have the blatantly obvious that couldn't possibly be hidden if you wanted to? You think we wouldn't notice that for the next 2 months Joe Biden is walking with a noticeable limp, or the fact that he's wearing a cast on his foot? I haven't seen that anywhere, but that's my take on it. I'm like, we're praising the transparency, for an issue that you couldn't not be transparent on, unless Biden was just going to pull a disappearing act for the next 2 months. He has to show up at an inauguration on the 20th of January. So I guess if we were going to see him for the next couple months, maybe that would have been a way to do it, but I can't see any other way. Another thing I wanted to mention is that we had this bizarre story. I mention this because a lot of you are interested in space. I'm interested in space. I'd like to hear more about this. Where a former Israeli space security chief says aliens exist, humanity not ready. I mean, this. We're gonna go into this rabbit hole, people, and this rabbit hole goes deep. The former Israeli space security chief says aliens exist, humanity not ready. This galactic federation, okay, this is not InfoWars. I swear, I'm not related to Alex Jones. This galactic federation has supposedly been in contact with Israel and the United States for years, but are keeping themselves a secret to prevent hysteria until humanity is ready. Okay, let's go into this. Has the state of Israel made contact with aliens? According to retired Israeli general and current professor Haim Eshed, the answer is yes, but this has been kept a secret because humanity isn't ready. Speaking in an interview to Yediot Aharana, Eshed, who served as the head of Israel's space security program for nearly 30 years, and is a 3-time recipient of the Israeli Security Award. So, again, the reason I even mention this is because of the position the guy held. This isn't just some Yahoo off the street of Tel Aviv. This guy served as the head of the Israeli Space Security Program for 3 decades. He explained that Israel and the United States have both been dealing with aliens for years. And this by no means refers to immigrants, with Eshed clarifying the existence of a galactic federation. Okay, so the 87-year-old former space security chief gave further descriptions about exactly what sort of agreements have been made between the aliens and the United States, which ostensibly have been made because they wish to research and understand the fabric of the universe. This cooperation includes a secret underground base on Mars, where there are American and alien representatives. If true, this would coincide with U.S. President Donald Trump's creation of the Space Force as the fifth branch of the U.S. Armed Forces, though it is unclear how long this sort of relationship, if any, has been going on between the U.S. and its reported extraterrestrial allies. Remember just a few days ago, we saw news that was it on a late-night comedy show where former President Obama was asked directly about the existence of aliens? And he said that, yes, he knows the answer, but he can't talk about it. Which I thought at the time, I said, is almost as good as confirming it, because if they didn't exist, why couldn't you talk about that? That makes no sense. That answer to me almost is like confirming that. It's like, if aliens didn't exist, you'd probably say, no, as far as we know, they don't exist. We've never encountered any. So why would Obama answer the question that way if there was nothing to it? I mean, just put two and two together. Yeah, I know about it. I just can't talk about it. What kind of answer is that? That's the answer you give if there's something there. Anyway, that's just speculation on my part. If true, this would coincide. Okay, I read that part. But Ashed insists that Trump is aware of them. I'd hope so, as President of the United States, and that he was on the verge of disclosing their existence. However, the Galactic Federation reportedly stopped him from doing so. Does the Galactic Federation have old friends here too? Could the Galactic Federation be, could they be like hybrid Chinese aliens? Do they have the Galactic Federation's old friends in our institutions of power and influence? The Galactic Federation reportedly stopped him from doing so, saying they wished to prevent mass hysteria since they felt humanity needed to evolve and reach a stage where we will understand what space and spaceships are, the Yediot Ahronot reported. As for why he's chosen to reveal this information now, Ashed explained that the timing was simply due to how much the academic landscape has changed and how respected he is in academia. If I had come up with what I'm saying today 5 years ago, I would have been hospitalized, he explained to Yediot. I guess in 2020, people will believe anything, I guess is the message here. He added that today they're already talking differently. I have nothing to lose. I've received my degrees and awards. I'm respected in universities abroad, where the trend is also changing. Ashed provided more information in his newest book. There's always a book being hawked, guys. Never forget that. The Universe Beyond the Horizon. Conversations with Professor Haim Ashed, along with other details, such as how aliens have prevented nuclear apocalypses, and when we can jump in and visit the Men in Black. The book is available now for, is this the Israeli shekel? NIS 98? Is that the abbreviation for shekel? This is the Jerusalem Post. I assume that's the currency they're talking about is shekels. While it's unclear if any evidence exists that could support Ashed's claims, they did just come ahead of a recent announcement by Space.il, excuse me, the group behind Israel's failed attempt to land a spacecraft on the moon in 2019, uploaded to social media with the text, "Ready to get excited again." The announcement contained a 15-second video of the moon with text saying "Back to the Moon," followed by the date of December 9th, 2020. So, does that mean tomorrow Israel's going to land a rocket on the moon? Interesting. I'd like to see that. It is likely that this is a follow-up to the Bereshit spacecraft, which crashed after engineers lost contact with it just minutes before it was due to land. However, the follow-up project titled Bereshit 2 is expected to take 3 years to be ready. Okay. So, take that with a grain of salt. If you believe it, don't believe it, note that it comes from somebody who you would hope wasn't a crackpot, some guy high up in the Israeli government there. Who knows? This was interesting. I thought the assassination of the Iranian nuclear scientist, which I'm going on the assumption that the Mossad was behind it, the Israeli Mossad, would seem to be the logical people, especially when it was described how. The interesting part of the story to me was how that was done. I mean, we had reports initially that it was some kind of suicide bombing. Then we got reports that it was an attack by a bunch of men who, with machine guns. Then we got this. It was some kind of like super ninja squad with guns. But now it seems like the real story has now come out, where it was a mounted remote controlled machine gun in some kind of truck. I guess they took a page. I guess the equivalent of whoever, remember the James Bond movies with Q? And I guess whoever the equivalent of Q is over at the Mossad there was watching the last episode of Breaking Bad, where Walter White took out the Nazi gang that was holding his friend there, Jesse Pinkman, hostage with the remote machine gun mounted in the trunk of that car. So here we go. Iranian state media has issued for the first time the stunning details of last Friday's assassination of top nuclear scientist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. Importantly, Iranian state media is claiming that a machine gun recovered from the site was made in Israel. The remains of the weapon used in the Friday assassination of the senior nuclear scientist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh show that it was made in Israel, an informed source told the Press TV. The killing was done entirely remotely, with no assassins on the ground, and no apparent drone activity, according to Iranian officials. But how? The source made the revelation on Monday, saying the weapon collected from the site of the terrorist act bears the logo and specification of the Israeli military industry. Here's the problem I have with this story. What are the odds that you think, now thinking that as I do, that the Israelis were behind this, but what do you think the odds are that they would use a weapon and then stamp the logo of IMI, the Israeli military industry, on the weapon? I mean, that just seems a bit implausible to me. I seriously doubt that Israel was going to conduct an assassination mission, which I suspect they did, but that they were going to do so and then leave a weapon with stamped that says, like, from Israel, made in Israel. That part that's the hard part, the part I find hard to believe. Tehran officials said they will soon publicize all available evidence showing who was behind the hit, which occurred in a small city east of the capital, included a hail of gunfire and detonation of a vehicle which took out the scientist convoy and bodyguards. Officials have further vowed hard revenge. Is there soft revenge? I mean, revenge is hard. I mean, if it's soft, you didn't get revenge. They vowed hard revenge for the killing, which they had in the hours after blamed on Israel. Initially, international reports strongly suggested a multiple-man hit team forced Fakhrizadeh's vehicle to stop before opening fire. However, Iranian state media just dropped details suggesting sophisticated remote-control machine guns were used. On Monday, the Secretary of the Islamic Republic's Supreme National Security Council confirmed that it is Iranian investigators' belief that Israel used electronic devices to take out Fakhrizadeh, according to the Associated Press. So this is not the actual weapon. This is, I believe, a photograph of a remote control gun previously used by ISIS in Mosul as an anti-aircraft weapon. This is from the Popular Front military analysis site. So maybe if I could expand that. Something like this, where you would have the gun mounted on top of the, I guess a gimbal of some kind, and then operated from remote. The person would, unless they use like a satellite link, would probably have to have been in Iran to operate this. But I guess if you didn't care about latency, you probably might be able to do this from Israel with a satellite hookup. Though, you'd have to have people in the country to put this out on the street. So, I mean, this is, to me, this is not something that's technologically difficult. I mean, this is just mounting a gun on a swivel mount, and some kind of, you could probably operate this electrically. I don't think it'd be too hard. Maybe dealing with recoil might be an issue. I mean, I'm sure you couldn't throw sustained bursts from this thing without having to compensate for the recoil, but still, if you did short bursts, I don't think that'd be an issue. Just interesting, I thought. So keep an eye out of that for when Iran, maybe they'll present whatever they collected from the site. Here you can see here's Israel has long possessed remote-controlled automatic weapons. Illustrative example via WikiWand. The Samson remote control weapon system for 30mm autocannon is designed to be mounted on a lightly armored, high-mobility military vehicles and operated by a gunner or vehicle commander operating under the deck. So, Israel already possesses something, close. I'm sure they'd have to size that down. You couldn't probably ride around in Iran with that sticking up out of your truck. But all you'd have to do is have a way to make this remote from a long distance, since they said there were no people on site. So something like this with some kind of long-range radio control or possibly satellite control, maybe like a drone. But with the satellite, there'd probably be some latency issues. It wouldn't be instantaneous, but I guess as long as you didn't care about that, which you wouldn't have to in an assassination attempt, you just wanted to put bullets on target. Well within their capabilities, so yeah. In other news, I'm sure some of you saw on, ironically, December 7th, the anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attack on the United States, Chuck Yeager, the famous pilot, the first man, I believe, anywhere to exceed the speed of sound in level flight. Previously, the pilots had exceeded the speed of sound before Yeager, but that had been done in dives, which was actually very dangerous because you exceeded the speed of sound in a dive. Often, the planes weren't built to sustain that, and their wings would rip off. But Chuck Yeager, he's the guy that first achieved this in level flight anywhere in the world. So he died. I didn't realize he was from West Virginia. But a lot of people today, especially people in the younger generations, they probably would. I don't know if they'd know who Chuck Yeager even was, but I thought it was significant enough, his passing, that I should say a little bit something about him. So Chuck Yeager, he was a World War II ace. All that means ace is that he shot down at least 5 enemy aircraft. A daring test pilot and a legendary West Virginia has died. His place in history was secured in 1947 when he became the first pilot to blow past the speed of sound. Yeager's daring and understated swagger personified the right stuff associated with test pilots who followed in his footsteps to become the first astronauts in the American space program. He thrilled West Virginians by buzzing under Charleston South Side Bridge in a Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star in 1948. General Chuck Yeager was an American hero. West Virginia's native son was larger than life and an inspiration for generations of Americans. U.S. Senator Joe Manchin of Democrat West Virginia stated. Echoing President Reagan's tribute to the Space Shuttle Challenger crew, Senator Shelley Moore Capito said Yeager had slipped the surly bonds of Earth and touched the face of God. What an amazing life, Capito said. So remember that a lot of people, if they remember Chuck Yeager at all, they remember him as the guy that broke the speed of sound. But remember, I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, this guy fought in 2 wars. I believe he also flew in Korea. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. While stationed in England, Yeager flew P-51 Mustangs, but was shot down over France on his 8th mission. He escaped and returned to the air. On October 12, 1944, Yeager downed 5 enemy aircraft in a single mission and finished the war credited with shooting down at least 12 German planes. It was during this period that he began naming his planes Glamorous Glennis after his first wife and the mother of Yeager's 4 children. Glennis Yeager died in 1990. In all, Yeager flew 64 combat missions. So I'm wrong. If he was doing test piloting, if he broke the sound barrier in 1947, so I doubt he was fighting in the Korean War. But still, Yeager, I think, should be remembered first and foremost for his exploits in World War II. I mean, 64 combat missions. This one I wanted to point out. I know Ron Howard is not normally a guy that someone of my politics, I guess you'd call me right wing, conservative, whatever. But in this case, I feel I'm going to have to say something. Ron Howard calls out film critics for injecting politics into their reviews of Hillbilly Elegy. Now, here's the thing. I haven't seen Hillbilly Elegy. I wasn't planning on seeing Hillbilly Elegy. It just, I don't know. Maybe I saw a trailer for it. It just didn't look like my kind of thing. I wasn't really interested in it. But I've got to say, after reading all the crap that it's been given by a lot of these SJW reviewers, I think I'm gonna see this movie maybe this week at some point. It appears that what they're taking issue with, if you don't know what it is, Hillbilly Elegy is essentially a movie about poor white people in the America's heartland. I think it's set in Ohio. So the point that the movie is making, and as far as I could tell, there's not really a political message in it. It's just a family drama about basically poor white people in America's heartland. Essentially, according to Howard, he wanted to be authentic to the problems, troubles, and the way they live, and essentially you had a family drama and people overcoming their problems and issues. But apparently, by reading the reviews of this thing, they have a problem presenting white people as having problems. As if white people aren't allowed to be, to be in poverty or to have dysfunction or, drug problems and things like that. Last time I checked, you wouldn't believe it from the media, the overwhelming majority of people in poverty are white in America. So this idea that somehow white people can't suffer or have problems, where did this come from? So Ron Howard can't make a movie where the subjects of the film happen to be white people in some kind of how do I want to put this? He's not, as far as I can tell, he's not making fun of these people. It's not like a movie that's set out like to be some kind of documentary. Oh, look at these poor white trash people. It does seem to be an authentic a story where it's just like he's telling a story. It's a family drama. It's not meant to bash these people, people that live in a rural or not a heavy urban area, and they're poor, they have problems. That was it. It's just, Ron Howard is a storyteller, and let me tell you, as far as I know, Ron Howard, he's a leftist himself. I don't think Ron Howard probably has no use for Donald Trump. And as far as I know, in the past, whenever he said anything, I've probably disapproved of it. Whenever he said anything political. But in this case, when it comes to him directing movies, he usually takes a straightforward approach. I mean, he's basically he's out of the school of, say, like George Lucas, where, even though, Lucas himself is a lefty, for the most part, his work, he's telling you a story. And he's usually, Ron Howard tends to tell uplifting stories. If you follow his films, you may not like them all, but for the most part, is something like this he would do he's not denigrating the subjects of the movie. So I'm going to probably watch this because, I mean, look at the tomato meter on this. This tells you all you need to know. The critics give this a 26% rating, but the general audience score give it 81%. So again, these guys they have to learn that if the SJWs, if the leftist people that populate the ranks of critics on Rotten Tomatoes, if they're telling me that this is a movie they don't want me to see, but 81% of the audience says you want to see this movie, I'm going to heavily go in favor of the audience score, because now I'm wondering, why don't these people over here, why don't they want me to watch this movie? I'm starting to think maybe there's a reason why they don't want people to watch this movie. I think they want to keep it out of people's heads that white people can suffer, white people can have problems. And if for that reason alone, I almost feel compelled to have to watch this movie now. Let's see. Let me read Ron Howard's take on it. The film has a positive audience score of 81% on Rotten Tomatoes from 725 user ratings. However, the film has a 26% tomato meter rating from film critics. The top critic score fares even worse with a 19%. It has 7 fresh and 29 rotten with an average rating of 4.7 out of 10. Critics savaged the film in their reviews. Esther Zuckerman at Thrillist wrote, "For all the overbearing sound and fury of the two lead performances, for all the purported gravitas, in the end it just feels pointless, a poverty-porn portrayal of the lives it intends to honor." Brian Lowry at CNN wrote, "These would theoretically be juicy roles for Adams and Close. But even with those stars letting loose, the conversations about broader cultural and economic challenges that the book triggered get obscured by what feels more like a Lifetime movie." Daniel Newman at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch added, "It is as if Howard does not fully understand the people whose story he is telling, so he feels compelled to force-feed the audience with the obvious points he's trying to make." Philip DeSemlin for Time Out added, "It may once have seemed like an Oscar-winning proposition, but Hillbilly Elegy arrives feeling more like an ill-judged, mind-numbing exercise in Hollywood-splaining Heartland America." At The Independent, Clarice Lowry wrote, "A narrative that belongs to a writer who refuses to admit his larger place in the world, and a filmmaker who thinks that a positive outlook alone can fix the world." And Ty Burr at the Boston Globe wrote, "The movie's a neoliberal's fantasy and a socio-political tract defanged. It will probably get nominated for a lot of awards." Alonso Duralde at The Wrap quipped, "It isn't interested in the systems that create poverty and addiction and ignorance. It just wants to pretend that one straight white guy's ability to rise above his surroundings means that there's no excuse for everyone else not to have done so well." So his problem here is that a white guy overcomes some problems. Oh my God. So let's read what Ron Howard is defending his film, and I think I'm gonna watch this movie just because of all this heat it's getting for portraying white people with problems.
Oh boy, that's powerful stuff from Glenn Close as Mama in the new Netflix movie Hillbilly Elegy. It's based on the 2016 memoir of the same name by J.D. Vance. It's about growing up in Appalachia. Vance is an executive producer on the film version, which is directed by the legendary, there he is, Ron Howard, one of the good guys in Hollywood. In the movie, as in life, Vance's family grapples with financial hardship and addiction. J.D. Vance and Ron Howard join us this morning. Good to see you both, guys. I was so excited. We were so excited to talk to you today. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
I read the book,
Good
J.D.
to see you, if only this way.
No, I can't wait till we can be in the same room again, Ronnie. I really can't. J.D., I read the book back in the day. I looked at the movie again. Ron Howard, I look at everything that you do, and I want to start with you about this particular movie, because you said you were drawn to it because it's a family story, and you relate to it. And I think when I heard Ron Howard relates to this story, how? But it is a very universal story for a lot of people. Start us off with that.
Well, my roots go back to small town and agricultural, rural Oklahoma. Cheryl's family, Louisiana, and agricultural Wisconsin. So, you know, I've been looking for a while for a story that, you know, set in that environment in a contemporary way. When Brian Grazer, my partner at Imagine, was the first to read Hillbilly Elegy, and I think he met JD as well, and we began talking about it. And when I read it and spoke to JD, you know, I felt that there was a really interesting contemporary story here, a truthful family drama. I was drawn to that. I also felt it was an interesting sort of emotional rescue and survival story that really celebrated the women in his life, especially the matriarch, played by Glenn, Mamaw. And by the way, I called my great-grandmother Mamaw. It wasn't just me. That's what everyone called her. And I didn't even know. I thought that was her specific nickname. I didn't know until I read JD's book that it was sort of a regional cultural thing.
Well, Mamaw, JD, was quite the character. You tell us about her lack of knowledge she taught you does not mean lack of intelligence. You said you come from a family that believes never speak at a reasonable volume when screaming will do, that if a fight gets a little too intense, it's okay to slap and punch as long as a man doesn't hit first. And it's okay to be insulting and hurtful to your partner. If all else fails, take the kids and the dogs to a local motel. I mean, you opened up a whole different world for people. And I thought it was interesting how it resonated in 2016. Do you feel that it still resonates today?
Well, I think certainly the response to the movie and so many of the emails and messages that I've gotten since the movie came out suggest that it still resonates. I think a lot of people attach to specific political significance, but you know, these problems of family struggle, of addiction and resilience, I really do think are timeless because we still have an addiction.
I mean, I won't play the whole interview for you guys. I mean, you get the idea. It almost seems like they have to almost feel like they're on the defensive here. Like they have to defend the fact that they made a movie about a family that had difficulties. You know, does it still resonate today? What is there no one with problems anymore? It just seems to me the critique of the movie seems to be that how dare they portray white people with problems? It's like you could produce 10,000 movies about a paraplegic, a Asian, LGBT person, people. People that there's like 1 in a million of them in terms of the general population. But if you make a movie about basically the most largest demographic that represented in terms of poverty and drug addiction, somehow you have to defend the fact that you made this movie. So yeah, pretty much I'm going to see this movie just because of all this heat they're getting for just having made the movie. This is bizarre to me. Why can't they just critique the movie on the movie itself? It seems to me, Ron Howard essentially, you know the whole thing when LeBron speaks and people criticize him saying just shut up and dribble, or when they say to rappers and singers just shut up and sing. It seems like Ron Howard just shut up and directed a movie. I don't know if Hillbilly Elegy doesn't strike me as a particularly partisan political movie. These people, as far as I know, they doesn't present them as like Trump supporters or anything. They could be anybody. And he just made a movie. He just shut up and directed. So that we'll just leave it at that. So maybe if you guys are interested, maybe some of you will watch Hillbilly Elegy. So I'm probably gonna watch this movie just from that. Had this not happened in terms of this type of critique, had I not seen so much of it, I probably would have never watched this movie. This one I just have to. I'm not gonna say much about it. Just saw this and like, what kind of person would get a job as a Santa Claus and then start judging the Christmas toy wishes of a child? Politically correct Santa tells crying kid he won't bring him a Nerf gun. Leftists are monsters, one Twitter user wrote. A mall Santa dropped a hammer on a little boy who asked him for a Nerf gun for Christmas, telling the bawling kid he wouldn't bring him the toy. The politically correct Kris Kringle was caught on video asking the child what he wanted for the holiday. according to a Facebook post by the boy's mother. The boy apparently mentioned a gun because the Santa could be heard replying, no guns. When the kid's mom, who was standing nearby, piped in, just to be clear, Nerf gun. The not-so-jolly old St. Nick was still having none of it. Oh, come on, man. Gotta say that we need to send Joe Biden down there? Come on, man. Oh, not even a Nerf gun, said the unmoved Father Christmas, who was sitting at a table surrounded by fake presents, with the boy across from him nervously holding his face mask in what looked like a mall. If your dad wants to get it for you, that's fine, but I can't bring it to you. Santa Claus said, what else would you like? Lots of other toys, Legos. There's bicycles, there's cars. Who is this guy? What kind of... The child turned to his mom and burst into tears, continuing to sob even when she bent down to hug and comfort him and told him, you'll still get it. I mean, come on. Who hires this Santa? Does this Santa still have his job? His job is not to make little kids cry. His job is not to judge their toy requests. My God. He's got to... How do you inject politics into the interaction between a mall Santa and a child? This is insane. The child didn't ask him to bring him a real firearm anyway. It's a Nerf gun. What is wrong with this guy? This one I'm going to mention. I saw this. I thought you guys get a kick out of this. YouTuber becomes more powerful by pivoting to terrible gaming content. Donkey gets real with an extended gag. And here's the title of the video he made announcing it. I'm done with good videos. So, this guy, Donkey, he's a gaming YouTuber. And I guess his point was, he's getting older. And he's basically saying, this YouTube thing doesn't pay so much. Or at least for the certain kind of content that he was making. And he apparently he was concentrating on making as good a content as he could, which meant that, he could only put out so much content in a given time frame, that he could only get out maybe one video a week or every week and a half of, good gaming content. And what he's saying is the way the YouTube algorithm is structured, to keep up with the other channels and, for YouTube to, recommend his stuff, he's essentially got to put out videos every day. And a lot of his competitors are pulling out multiple videos a day. Which, if you guys don't know, that's a breakneck pace and hard to keep up. Especially in gaming. It's one thing, a guy like me, I could probably pull it off if I had a better equipment, but, just so I could compress and, make videos faster. But for me, it'd just be a case of, doing the topic and talking about it. I have full control. So I could do it. In terms of, if that was my goal, I could say, research a topic and put out a video on it. And it would only have to be like a 10, 15 minute video, 20 minutes. Sometimes some of my bigger videos, I used to make them 30 minutes. If it was a complex topic, but still, if I was putting out, say, 10-minute videos or 15-minute videos, I could probably put multiple out in a day. If I was grinding it like that. But if you're a gaming YouTuber, and I tried my hand at that for a while. If you're gonna put out good content like that, you need help. You can't. That is hard to pull off as a one-man show. Guys like. Even in the news space, I mean, Tim Pool, he has help doing what he does. I think Sargon just started his Lotus Eater stuff. So he's gotten some help. But to put out quality content every day, remember, not content, not garbage. And that's the gag here, what Donkey's talking about. He's saying he's deliberately putting out subpar content just so he could put out, the video a day or more that he thinks he has to put out to satisfy the YouTube algorithm. And the ironic part is he ended up being right by putting out the garbage videos, and this is deliberately it might be a parody, but he's definitely putting out videos that are qualitatively less good. He actually is gaining followers in Steam. It's better for his channel and him financially to put out the garbage content, and he's like running with it. He's like, it's almost like a mockery of YouTube. Here's a guy deliberately putting out shit content, and it's working for him. Let's see this video. I'm done with making good videos. Maybe I have to refresh it. Or should I do this? It's a PayPal ad. What?
Simulating. I'm gonna put like a thumbnail of a girl with like big text going, "She said what?" And I am so outraged by whatever thing that happened that week. Really excited for Drama Mondays. For Tuesday, we're doing Among Us Tuesdays. Among Us is pretty much the greatest video game ever made. Everything else is just kind of irrelevant. I'm gonna be uploading highlights from my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/dunkstream, where I'll be playing with some big time stars like Eddie Murphy. Will Smith is gonna be in there. We talk about the filming of Wild Wild West for a little bit. Then Wednesday is gonna be Minecraft.
I mean, think about it. He's describing this. I'm gonna put out garbage content. I'm gonna put out Minecraft videos.
Wednesday, you guys know how much I love Minecraft. Originally, I was a Minecraft channel. I've done speedruns, so I'm really excited for Minecraft Wednesday and really digging into some of the lore of Minecraft. Now, for Thursday, we're doing Among Us Thursday.
Think about it. He already did Among Us Tuesdays. He's gonna go to Among Us again on Thursdays.
Yeah, boy, you know how much I love Among Us. This game is so hot right now. I'm actually streaming it live at dunkstream.com/Twitch. I'm actually going to be playing with Johnny Depp tonight. Friday is Reaction Friday. I am so burnt out on making videos. I just want to watch other people's videos and upload it to my channel. And when I see something crazy, I'm going to be like, wow! So excited for Reaction Friday. Now, Saturday, I want to do something that's never been done on YouTube before, and that is play Minecraft.
Play some more Minecraft. Alright, so you get the point. You get the point here. He's basically lined up. I'm gonna put out garbage content. Now I think he meant it as a joke, but then he actually did what he said he's gonna do, and it worked. He goes on to say, despite his efforts, he struggles to make even 4 videos a month, especially compared to channels that make daily uploads. So as I described to you, guys like they describe here like Markiplier, that these guys they put out a lot because they actually have people on the payroll to help them with the editing and you know, just putting the videos together. So the difference, of course, is that large channels often hire entire teams to help with certain aspects of content creation, from editing to YouTube optimization. Videos that are carefully crafted may have been what made YouTube appealing during the early days, but if you actually want to make money now, grind and churn becomes inevitable. And even with a team propping you up, nearly everyone ends up playing Minecraft at one point or another, even if they swear they never will. It's just what you have to do to survive. Now here's where it gets particularly interesting. In that same video, Donkey says that in order to make more money, he's going to start outsourcing some of the grunt work of video creation, and will also adopt new formats that are proven to work on the platform. It comes off as a joke. The companies that he lists as the hired help don't exist, for one, and the content that he describes, like, quote, drama coverage and Minecraft videos, they're not Donkey's standard fare. Now, at the time, it seemed like he was just making a point about what sort of videos the platform likes to promote and what tends to populate the YouTube trending page. But then Donkey actually went ahead and uploaded exactly what he said he would, schedule that he proposed. And when you click through, you come to find that these two are part of the gag. Technically, he made a reaction video with a face cam and everything, but the footage is extremely short and ends after a poster unceremoniously falls to the ground. The Minecraft video, which has a clickbait title reminiscent of the Uber driver suck me off meme, is actually about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And the Among Us video features a ridiculous 1v1 content where the players take turns asking each other if they're the imposter rounds ending almost immediately after they begin. They aren't great videos per se. And the wild thing is, the quality didn't matter. All of these videos have performed better than what Donkey usually uploads, with a couple of them even hitting the trending page on YouTube, despite being jokes and despite arguably being made for the lowest common denominator. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. So he said he's going to put out garbage content because that's what YouTube promotes. He puts out garbage content and then YouTube promotes his videos. Unreal. So as we're gonna start wrapping up the video here. We're coming up on the magical 3-hour mark, guys. The magical 3-hour mark. We have an incoming super chat from Low Tech. Thank you for the Jaeger nod. My father knew him, said he was the real deal. Then Donkey. Well played. I'm not putting Donkey in the same category as Chuck Yeager, but thank you for the super chat, Low Tech. We have Black Panther star Letitia Wright apologizing for sharing video skeptical of COVID-19 vaccinations. This is fascinating. If you guys, I'm sure many of you have seen the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Avengers, Black Panther. You know that the actress who plays the character that is the sister of Black Panther, she's a young African-American actress. Her name is Letitia Wright. And if you watched it, you know that Black Panther, the actor that played him, he died. And a lot of people were actually pushing for this, her character to become the new Black Panther. Okay? So this Letitia Wright, you could say she was the darling of the woke left. And they wanted to make her the center of the new Marvel Cinematic Universe. They wanted her to be the new female Black Panther. They wanted this Marvel to base the new Marvel movies, make her like the leader of the new wave of the Marvel movies, the new Marvel Cinematic Universe, post the Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. But no, that's all come to a crashing. It's all crumbled away because Letitia Wright made the mistake of questioning the asking a question if the potential Wuhan coronavirus vaccines, if it was safe to put them in her body. She didn't say it was. She just asked a question. As you'll see. Actress Letitia Wright, best known for portraying Shuri in Black Panther and the last 2 Avengers films, has apologized for sharing a video that promoted skepticism towards the various COVID-19 vaccines currently being developed. Here she is in character. Obviously, she doesn't walk around dressed like this. She's not. She's an inhabitant of the fictional world of country of Wakanda, as you can see, and she's got the high-tech equipment that she makes in the movie. So apparently she's a religious person, and the church that she belongs to or follows online is called the Rig Nation Church. And apparently the pastors, the people that run this church, they're very skeptical of the coronavirus narrative, and they're questioning the what's being put in the vaccines. And she shared this video of one of these guys talking about it. This Tommy Ariyomi and his brother Toby, as they talked on their podcast On the Table when they were discussing this topic. And just from her sharing this video, she got a backlash. So in a clip from the now deleted episode posting to the Rig Nation Instagram page, Tommy Ariyomi can be seen taking issue with the potential use of the chemical luciferase as a proposed additive to future COVID-19 vaccines. The bioluminescence-producing chemical, whose name comes from the Greek lightbringer, which has been proposed as an additive, and you could see the problem that a very religious person might have with this chemical. Its name is luciferase, as in Lucifer. Now, ironically, the Greek translation for the name of the devil in the Bible, translated as Lucifer, because that's what his name meant in the original, in Hebrew sense, Lucifer, Lightbringer. So it has been proposed as an this chemical has been proposed as being an additive in future COVID-19 vaccines as a way to track who has and who has not been inoculated, particularly in undeveloped countries. Some people would see this luciferase then, especially with it being used as a proposed additive to track who has and has not been inoculated. You could say that maybe that could be interpreted as being the mark of the beast. So you want us to not be conspiratorial, exclaimed Ariomi, but you're provoking it. Why? Why? What's wrong with you? Why would you have a product called luciferase? Okay, so here we have, she shared the video, and then she ironically, she posts this point after she got attacked. If you don't conform to popular opinions, but ask questions and think for yourself, you get canceled. And then these people, oh my God, you have no idea what they went on to savage this girl online. And let me go to this is account data racer that keeps track of this kind of stuff. Marvel's Letitia Wright has been left social media after being bullied and harassed by the cancel mob. SJWs are telling Marvel to fire her for being an anti-vaccine transphobic bitch. Don't tell me where transphobia came into this. Cancel culture abusing a religious black woman because she was concerned about a vaccine. Remember the Gamergate controversy? When they described all the toxic behavior that the knuckle-dragging toxic gamers would engage in, bullying women off of the internet, bullying transgender people, bullying minorities, and be saying mean things and making threats. And well, here we have Letitia Wright. She's, her account she suspended it or deleted it. Apparently, they've hounded her off of social media. Look at the nasty stuff these people write, and ask yourself if this was actually said by quote unquote trolls. Remember the old Gamergate movement, the old toxic knuckle draggers. I'm so mad. You're a stupid bitch. Ugh. I mean this with the most disrespect. F you. You're an anti-vaxxer. Shut the F up. Another one. Let's go. Weed out these scum. Getting canceled isn't a thing. Repercussions for being a moron have always existed. Letitia Wright, Disney, Marvel Studios need to seriously consider replacing this bigoted anti-vaxxer. You deserve to be canceled. Talk about blaming the victim here. Here's hoping Disney, Marvel Studios, Avengers cuts you loose. You're a horrible example for children everywhere. If promoting anti-vax propaganda in the middle of a pandemic, maybe you deserve the backlash. And it goes on and on. People just savaging this girl just for asking a question. And she finally issues the apology. My intention was not to hurt anyone. My only intention of posting the video was it raised my concerns with what the vaccine contains and what we are putting in our bodies. Nothing else. And then there she is. Issued the apology, didn't make a difference. So she's now been hounded off social media. They just wouldn't leave her alone. And now this is being expanded now to the Miss Marvel, the Disney Plus series, which full disclosure here, I'm not exactly a fan of this. I mean, I think this is dumb. Miss Marvel, this Kamala Khan version, which if you don't know, this is woke Marvel, basically changed Miss Marvel into a Muslim girl from Pakistan. So she's like a Pakistani Muslim, the new Miss Marvel. But that's not good enough for the SJWs. Apparently, this is bad because a recent set of rumored casting choices for Miss Marvel's upcoming Disney Plus series, apparently everyone in this movie has to be like an Pakistani Indian now. Not just Miss Marvel, but anybody involved with the movie. If they're not from a genuine Pakistani Muslim, it's some kind of crime that they've been cast. And the other crime is that this person that was also cast, this Andrew Brodeur, based on unproven allegations made about him in college, these Title IX allegations, quote unquote, that who knows if those are even real. Because of unproven allegations of behavior that he did in college, they want this actor canceled. This Andrew Brodeur, this guy right here, because of having multiple Title IX cases. This Graggy May account accused them of against him, and I've seen him make multiple girls extremely uncomfortable. I mean, again, he's been convicted of no crime. Really, I can't even say he's been accused of any crime because they really have no evidence of this. They haven't produced any evidence of it. That he actually even was accused. So we have this social justice mob attacking every aspect of this Miss Marvel show. And the fact that another character who's going to play, I guess, Kamala Khan's mother, that she is in fact an Indian woman and a Christian, but because she's an Indian, she's a half-white Indian woman and Christian, that she cannot possibly play a Pakistani Muslim character. So, I mean, this is what it's come to. And apparently, this woman also made the mistake of leaving the impression that she might be a Trump supporter. So apparently that was also some kind of sin. Yasmin Fletcher has not done anything as egregious, but we find it inappropriate that a half-white Christian girl was apparently cast as Nakia Bahadur. I mean, have these people ever heard of the character of Nick Fury? Where were they? Where were they when Nick Fury was race swapped from a white World War II veteran to basically to Shaft? I think these people are a bit late on complaining about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and race swaps of characters. We have a black Nick Fury. We have a black Heimdall, who is supposed to be a Scandinavian god, and a black Valkyrie. you ever heard? The story in Norse mythology of Odin's Valkyries, the choosers of the slain. Yes, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we have a black Valkyrie. We have a black Norse god played by Idris Elba. The fine actor, by the way. His performance. If you don't care about the race swap, his performance is great. I mean, he's a great actor. I love Idris Elba, but they race swapped Heimdall and changed. Remember, he's supposed to be a Scandinavian god, Heimdall, and we have Nick Fury, an iconic character. I mean, the eye patch and everything. He was an iconic World War II veteran, sort of like Captain America, a man out of time. He was race swapped. He's also black. So we have three characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe previously race swapped from Caucasian to white, and she's complaining here about they're not even race swapping the character as they did explicitly in the cases of Valkyrie, Heimdall, and Nick Fury. Here they're not doing that. This is just the actress playing this woman may not be entirely South Indian and maybe of a different religion, but her character in the show is still supposed to be a Pakistani Muslim female. Yet they have a problem with that. But they don't have a problem with the other race swaps. So I'll leave it to you to say if that's hypocrisy or not. Last issue for today, I'm going to mention, as any of you who are gamers know, tomorrow is the big day, at least here in the United States. I believe if you're in Europe, it'll technically be Thursday. tomorrow is the big day at the 7 o'clock Eastern time. CD Projekt Red's long-awaited game, Cyberpunk 27, is finally going to launch. So we have now these, I just want to mention these social justice reviewers that are crying so much. I mean, this game, all the reviews that I hear that are negative about it is written by literally a trans person or trans activist or someone speaking on their behalf. It is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen, where the game is not critiqued on things in the game necessarily, like the issues that you would normally think about when you want to when you read a review of a game. How are the graphics? The soundtrack, the gameplay. Are there bugs? That kind of thing. Is the game fun to play? No, everything is trans issues. Sometimes you'll be reading a review of this game. And it'll be like 6 or 7 paragraphs down before they stop talking about trans stuff and get to the actual game itself. It's just crazy. And then you have these same people now, they're complaining that they didn't get review copies. And then some of them, you're wondering, what do they expect? I mean, you spend months savaging the studio. They're not going to go, break their back to give you review copies. Basically, these people are complaining they're not getting free games. They're shocked that CD Projekt Red would give influencers free codes so that they could help market their game. That's the point. They're a business. They're trying to make money. I don't have a problem that they're giving free game codes to like influential Twitch streamers and YouTubers to help publicize their game. That going in, if you see a Twitch streamer and he's talking about a game that he's played before you have, clearly he was given that game by the game dev. You'd have to be an idiot to think he's not he doesn't have a relationship with the company. Now, ethically, I feel that if, for example, say CD Projekt Red had given me a free game code. Well, if I'm going to talk about the game, I think I'd probably tell you, listen, I didn't pay for the game. This was given to me. So at least you had that information. I think that, that would be incumbent on me to tell you that the game, I hadn't paid for it myself and that the game dev had supplied it to me. Fine. But whatever. If you're not a games journalist, though, I mean, I'm not even sure that you have that obligation. I think I'd feel compelled to do it. It just wouldn't feel right. But again, if you're not a games journalist, I don't think you have the same ethical weight as a games journalist, who I definitely think should. If you're claiming to be a journalist, you have to disclose that you got a review copy. But it's neither here nor there. If you don't get one, you can't cry that you didn't get one. The game is the company is not required to give you a free game. And the fact that you'd criticize them for that to me is also a conflict of interest. You're complaining, you're crying that you didn't get a free game. So are you going to be criticizing the game going forward because they didn't give you a free copy? A free game code? The other bizarre thing that before everybody else, so on top of that, on top of getting the game free, they're getting the game from before everybody else, and they're still complaining. But like I mentioned before, the article that you should check out if you want to. It's at Polygon, and it sucks that Cyberpunk 2077's edgelord marketing worked so well. This review, or this story on Cyberpunk, it came out a few days ago. It's got to be over 1,000 words. And most of it is not even the game itself. It's complaining about trans issues in the game. This is nuts. This is unbelievable. I mean, you're reading this. What about the game? I don't care about you. You don't like a poster in the game? because it depicts a trans person. Nothing is good enough for these people. Here's a game. Let me tell you how crazy this is. Here's a game that in the character generation, you could pick a masculine or a feminine body. But you're not restricted. You can make that body have a male or female sounding voice. You could even have that male or female body have male or female genitalia. This is the most wide open character generation system I've ever seen with that regard. Now, do they go out and put it in your face and tell you that that's what it is? No. They just leave it there. They don't even label it. You make whatever character you want. So they've gone that far in character customization. You can make your dream transgender character if you want. They've gone that far, CD Projekt Red. You know why? Because they're this Polish company. They're that based. They don't give it. They don't care. So they made the game. They made the CaraGen. You could, if you want to, you could make your trans character, which you can't. I don't know of any Call of Duty game where you could do that. You know, they've given them that much in the game. I haven't played it yet. I'll let you guys know. Maybe I'll stream it if the potato can handle it, and if the game isn't too buggy and laggy. But as far as I understand, in the game, you can have homosexual relationships, same-sex relationships, trans relationships with transgender people. There are transgender people in the game. That's the setting they're in. It's cyberpunk. That's the whole point. It's kind of like the theme of the game is that the human body in the future has been commoditized by corporations, and that they will chop it up and take advantage of the and exploit the human body, for a profit. That they don't care, that you're just a bag of meat to them. So whatever parts you have or whatever parts you want to have, if they can make money off of it, they don't care. Okay? So that's kind of like the whole point, that the human body is meaningless in the world of Cyberpunk 2077. Right? You have the theme of it is that your body is cheap, but the profit means more than your body. Okay, so according to them, exploring this, which is kind of like one of the major themes of the game, is somehow transphobic. This is a negative portrayal of trans people. Hello, that's the setting. It's a dystopian future. The world of Cyberpunk 2077 is not presented as a good place. It's a dystopia. It's a place where corporations are more powerful than the government, where the income inequality they talk about, where you have a tiny few of the ultra wealthy at the top living in Shangri-La, and everybody else living in the dirt and grime of the gutter. That's part of the setting. It's not a good place. Night City is not a nice place to live unless you're in the 0.1% that live at the top. Okay, so that's kind of what's going on around the game. Definitely going to talk about this tomorrow. Can't wait to get my hands on it. Just because these people want this game to fail so bad, it's funny. So we're just gonna leave it at that. I think I've gone on for almost 3 hours and 20 minutes now. Said most of what I wanted to say. The whole thing with the Chinese video, I hope we find out more about that video and more from that guy. I just his willingness to be honest. I don't know, unless he's been nabbed by the Chinese Communist Party and disappeared. I'd like to hear more from that guy about his old friends here in the United States and his insights into Hunter Biden. Where is Hunter, by the way? Has anyone seen him? All right, guys. Look, keep an eye out for that. I can't promise you that I'm going to stream the Cyberpunk 2077 stuff, just because the issues with the potato, but the game at launch might be a bit buggy. You know how these things go. These big games always launch with bugs. it might be a patch or two before the game is optimized and stable enough to even show. But I'll let you know if I decide to do that. We're gonna leave it at that. So that's gonna be all for this NeoUnrealist. If you want to help the channel, look, do me a favor, hit the like button for this video. As always, leave a comment below. Mash down on the subscribe button if you're not already subbed to the channel, and click on the notification bell next to it if you want to get the notifications. If you set it on anything but all, you're not going to get them. If you want to contribute directly to the channel, you want to toss your hard-earned dollars into the tip jar, you can follow the links below in the description of the video. There, I got Patreon, Subscribe Star, PayPal links. If you want to watch this later on BitChute, you just click on the green tip pledge button on the video player. They make it very easy. But most importantly, guys, thank you for watching.
One